48% are women, 52% are men, and in total, 61.2 are youth. So you can see the majority of people who are borrowing Hustler Fund are the youth.
The African Centre for Open Governance, AFRICOG, has issued a stark warning about the state of corruption in Kenya. In its 2024 report, the civil society organization accuses President William Ruto's administration of enabling a culture of corruption, citing unchecked scandals, misuse of public funds and excessive external borrowing. According to the report, Kenya acquired 36 new loans in the past year alone, amounting to approximately 900 billion shillings with minimal accountability regarding the expenditure. The report comes amid heightened scrutiny of President Ruto's 2 years in office, including controversial moves such as the push for appointing chief administrative secretaries, punitive tax measures, and the contentious Adani Katrako power transmission deal that was cancelled.
The view of an overwhelming majority of Kenyans is that this country is headed in the wrong direction and that the president is the one who is most responsible.
Only 11% in September believed that the country was headed in the right direction. The higher up you are in terms of political and social connections, the more likely you will not serve a sentence. The more likely an appeal would be expedited.
And finally, Kenya Party leader Martha Karua has written a protest letter to the Uganda Law Council in her capacity as a lawyer protesting the council's decision to decline her application for a special practicing certificate. Karua intended to represent former opposition leader Kizza Besigye, who's facing a court-martial over a series of alleged offences, including illegal gun possession and money laundering. Besigye was picked up in Nairobi and forcefully taken back to Uganda and arraigned in a military court alongside Haji Lutale, another opposition figure. Karua appeared in court on December 2nd but was denied the honours on grounds that she did not have a certificate to practice in Uganda. She applied for the certificate, but according to her, the Uganda Law Council declined to issue her one on a number of grounds, the former Constitutional Affairs Minister said. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Obag.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. And even beautiful in person more than in photos. Say that again. Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. People hiding here and there, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant. It's like what my grandmother would say, you cannot pickpocket a naked man. How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, Kenya. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, planet Earth. Looking at something that actually doesn't exist. It's called traffic. This morning, all the roads at this particular point in time have very little traffic, meaning very few cars. Now, it doesn't mean you can drive the way you like. It just means it's early and there's no traffic. It will build up with time. Whether you're on Mombasa Road, there's a bit of a hiccup. Yes, Mombasa Road, just a slight hiccup. There's some repairs taking place in the middle of the road, and that is going to cause a problem until that particular section is fixed. If you look at Thika Road, well, hardly any traffic to speak of, but it will build up. If you are looking at Jogo Road, you're looking at Landes, you are looking at the Southern Bypass, the Eastern Bypass, Kiambu Road, all these roads currently have very little traffic to speak of. So if you're on the road, enjoy yourself. Should anything untoward happen, call us and let us know what it is that you have witnessed or you've experienced. Now continue having a good day.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And good morning, and many thanks for tuning in to Spice FM from wherever it is you are watching us. We are coming to you live from the capital, Nairobi. My name is Dennis Asset, holding fort for Eric Latiff, who's away today. But today in studio, I have Kevin Samuel. Kevin Samuel, good morning to you. Habari yako?
Habari, salama sana.
He is our guest host today, and the one and only C.T. Muga. C.T., good morning. Habari yako?
Good morning. How are you today, Dennis?
Salama.
Kevin, karibu.
Thank you very much for having me. This is a big chair to fill, so appreciate being here.
Karibu sana. Yeah. City, Kevin Samuel tells me that your beard has grown, has changed color, which is a good thing.
Let me tell you something. What he hasn't told you is just he didn't give you the digital details of how long I have known him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've known him since his age was a single digit.
A single digit.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've known you since my age was double digit, which is a good thing.
Though. No, you lower double digit.
Lower double digit.
Yes, now it's getting to an upper double digit.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So this I keep reminding you, it's important to live long.
Here's the benefits of being a teacher.
Yes,
because really the only thing that has changed is the color of his beard and his hair. That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the meantime, I have no hair. You know, he's gone through his life. He's managed to hold on to his hair. I don't know. The secrets here need to be shared. Yeah.
And yes, indeed. Today on the show, we shall be having guests. We will be having Professor PLO Lumumba, who will be joining us as we talk about advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika. Just talking about matters to do with legal, political, and institutional challenges. After which we shall be having, we are on 16 days of activism ending GBV the country, and with that we shall be having guests as well. George Wanyonyi, who is a program lead, Youth and Children National Gender and Equality Commission. Equally, we shall be having Anna Katuki, who is Gender Inclusion Advisor, Plan International Kenya, and Sylvia Maina, who's Gender Communication Specialist, UN Women East and Southern Africa. A timely conversation that we shall be having right here on Spice FM. And later at 9 a.m. we shall be having Alfred Keter, former Nandi Hills MP, as we just talk about Kenya's political year in review. That is what you shall be looking up to as the day goes by. As we just get into these conversations that Kenyans want to listen to, and also just knowing where we are in terms of politics. But as we talk about that, today in the newspaper, we have a lot going on. And Samuel, what do you have on the Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper? If you could just take us on some of the headlines on the Standard.
Right, okay. So the big one, I think planted right in front of us, is a handshake between former President Uhuru Kenyatta and the current President William Ruto. Headline is Secrets of Ruto-Uhuru Meeting, whereas President William Ruto and former President Uhuru Kenyatta said they spoke of national unity, high taxation and harassment. Mount Kenya politics and the broad-based government were at the center of the discussion in Ichaweri, Gatundu. Then we also have Kalonzo saying, please do not blame me, talking about the IEBC panel delays, and talks about the constitutional crisis on electoral and boundaries issue worsening. And then the one I'm really actually interested in is the Karua book, Martha Karua's book, Against the Tide, which has just come out. I'm very curious to read that. There's a nice spread on pages 10 and 11. Goes into details about her relationship with Kibaki and why she turned down the position offered to her for being shadow minister. And then we have women gets more wealth for husband's education. So that's what we have on the cover of the Standard.
On the Standard. And CT, from your end, what do we have from the Daily Nation?
Let me look at the Daily Nation, then I'll look at the Star as well.
Okay.
Daily Nation, Judiciary, e-filing hitch was not a plot against Gachagua. Probe reveals technical problems locked out petitioners who sought to file cases during the ouster of Deputy President. This is a story on page 10, and like most stories that involve the impeachment of the immediate former Deputy President, this one is coming thick and furious. We will look at the details of it, and it looks like the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary has some explaining to do. Now, when we say explain, doesn't mean that there's something wrong. Just explains that people understand what it is that happened. And those who don't understand what the big fuss is about, that they also get to understand what the big fuss is all about. How KU, JKUAT sank, let me repeat again, how they sank millions in idle Rwanda campuses. Meaning they have campuses in Rwanda and, the mice and the cockroaches are playing hide and seek. Not much you see. They say the institutions are struggling to dispose of properties worth millions in Kigali, where their campuses have remained idle till 2017, just around before COVID. Yes, meaning few students, but nothing really much to talk about. Okay, now this one is the sort of thing that has been making headlines in Kenya for a long time, and this is the nonsense that we must get rid of. MCAs, county officials gobble up 1 billion on trips in 4 months. This is utter nonsense. Yes. Gobble.
Okay. The operative word.
Gobble. All right. IBC Rao, who's fooling who? Goodness. With competing interests among major political players, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission remains a pawn in Kenya's political chess game. As buck passing continues to who carries the responsibility for the impasse. A review of developments since the last election points to how the country got into this dilemma. Yes, it does. Bang in the middle of the paper, politics. Meeting sparks speculation. It's the same headline, whether you're looking at the Star, whether you're looking at the Standard, There's a picture of the immediate former president shaking hands with the president. And they say, handshake, President William Ruto's surprise visit. There's no surprise here. It's us who are surprised. A visit to the rural home of his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, adds a new twist to the fluid political landscape that started with the rapprochement between Dr. Ruto and the opposition leader. Rapprochement. I'm sure the French will tell you something like rapprochement.
Rapprochement.
Yes, something of that sort. But rapprochement, between Dr. Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Why Ruto Uhuru are closing ranks? Are they really? Are they? Now, the only paper that doesn't have a picture of the two former adversaries looking all chummy and cozy is The Star. The Star, The Star. Motorcycle challenge. Reverend Korir rides around Africa to raise 50 million for needy kids. Reverend Nick Korir is a motorcycling enthusiast. His thrill is not lightning speed, but riding to go far. The Nairobi Chapel senior pastor, that's the church I go to, just in case you didn't know, sets on Thursday to ride around Africa for the next 5 months. His mission, to raise awareness and fees for high school students from poor families. Well done, Pastor Nick, well done. State critics targeted. Concerns over rising crimes committed by police officers. The number of police officers engaged in crime has risen this year. A new report has said that the report by the National Council for Administration of Justice for the ended financial year show that more cops engage in reported criminal offences, forming part of a general spike. Strike of leadership. I'm reading my own things this morning. Strikes to leadership. Heritage champion smiles through life's problems. Nyeri Mbure is always smiling, and few could believe she is capable of doing anything gritty like leading strikes. Behind her smile, however, lies years of life's beatings that push her to almost giving up. She is the marketing manager of the World Heritage Program in Ohio History Connection in the US. Now, bang in the middle of this paper, actually today, I usually start with the top right-hand corner until green. So let me go back there. How Ruto's new cabinet fared in its first 100 days. That's a scorecard on page 6. But bang in the middle of the paper, spotlight, frequency and style of his appearances suggest a clear strategy. Remain visible, remain relevant. Who are they referring to? They're referring to the immediate former Deputy President Gachagua. What is the deposed DP up to? His tactics are unorthodox, no they're not, yet effective. Show up and announce at village events, take charge of the microphone and deliver fiery speeches. This has been done before, it's not new.
Nothing new.
And on the Business Daily today, the headline there is mergers, buyouts looms as 12 banks seek fresh capital. Now, 12 banks, including Housing Finance Company, Access Bank Kenya and Credit Bank, face a race against time to raise about 11.85 billion shillings in fresh capital by end of next year, or opt for mergers and acquisitions if President William Ruto signs a new bill into law. Now, the bill passed by Parliament last week seeks to raise banks' minimum capital tenfold to 10 billion shillings within 5 years. This is a conversation that is ongoing, especially among the financial spaces, as that bill has been approved by Parliament. And equally, state turns to agents to get affordable houses buyers. Now, the state is recruiting estate agents to sell affordable houses and help buyers get mortgages in a bid to speed up the uptake of the project, which targets at least 200,000 units annually. When we talk about matters, City, to do with the affordable housing, what was the state's plan in making sure that Kenyans actually get to uptake these houses now that they are turning into agents to help them sell these houses to Kenyans?
If you if you go down memory lane, the entity we refer to as National Housing, which has been there from antiquity, had the sole mandate in those earlier times to do precisely that. So if you go to the major towns in this city, in Kenya rather, you will find estates, as we call them. And the people who are behind the building of these estates were National Housing. That's what they did. They put up houses. You don't hear of Otiende.
Yeah.
Onyonka. Who do you think put them up? It was National Housing. If you go to Mombasa, you hear of Changama. Who do you think put them up? It was National Housing. All the major towns in this particular country That was the plan. The plan was have estates where people whose incomes are not high can find suitable, affordable, and dignified accommodation. That was the understanding. Okay? Now, what the national housing program that this particular government and the previous one are trying to push is to enhance that same idea. Okay? Now, in the past, one of the things that made possible estates like, say, Buruburu, is we had partners coming in, okay, to help us put it up. Probably one of the biggest developments that we've ever seen. Now, this was, again, I'm going back to the government trying to do what has been done before and to make it possible for citizens who ordinarily cannot afford to either own or rent a dignified accommodation to do that. Okay? Now, other details are for a discussion on another day.
On another day. All right. And again, Narok beats Nairobi in on-source revenue. Now, Narok County netted 2.98 billion shillings in on-source revenue over the 3 months to September 2024, overtaking Nairobi for the very first time. These would be said, Narok actually has been listed being one of the richest counties in this country, primarily due to the wildlife in the county, hotels and whatnot. And the fact that it has beaten Nairobi in on-source revenue, Sakaja clearly has a lot to do, has a lot of work scheduled for him. And investors lose gains as Bamburu's share price falls 21.5% and Kenya Eurobond yields fall to single digits. Now, Kenya Eurobond yields have fallen to single-digit territory, signaling the country's ability to tap funding from the international capital markets at lower interest rates. And the Nigeria firm eyes Mombasa KPC cooking gas facility. Now, Nigerian oil marketing company Ashrami Synergy is in talks with Kenya Pipeline Company to fund a 17.7 billion shillings cooking gas imports handling facility in Mombasa. Now, the contract negotiation led by Ministry of Energy and Petroleum is ongoing and they hope that it will soon be completed by the end of the month. A senior official familiar with the matter said, though they did not provide details. But City, there is this story that you've just raised in terms of the education that you said is really important important and something that we need to discuss, and that is matters to do with the universities and opening satellite campuses outside the country. But before we get to that, the People Daily as well has just highlighted equally what Uhuru advised Ruto in that meeting yesterday, of speculations being thrown around, others actually even hinting at a possible cabinet reshuffle. But all that, I think we will know in the days to come. But as well on Taifa Leo, now this one always has a good headline. Uhuru aingia nini? Box. You know, Rais William Ruto na mtangulizi wake Uhuru Kenyatta wasemezana faragani na kwa mara ya kwanza kujitokeza kupigwa picha paruanja, huku minong'ono ikisema wawili hawa wameafikiana kufanya kazi pamoja. Hii ni katika jaribio la kiongozi wa taifa kupunguza uasi dhidi yake haswa katika eneo la Mlima Kenya. That is Taifa Leo on that meeting between former retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto meeting yesterday. And City, now there's that story that you're talking about, universities opening satellite campuses outside the country in Rwanda, and how they have failed in making sure and spent unnecessary funds in that entire scenario. Now, City, when we talk about matters to do with the education sector in this country, we're talking at a time when education funding model in this country, especially for campuses, is a problem. Universities are like Moi University. It is a university that literally changed the entire face of Uasin Gishu County, Eldoret, being considered the education hub of the country. But today we are seeing these universities that we have in the country spending money where it is not needed. Today, that is funds from Kenyans, taxpayers' money that has gone into a city. Take us through that, because this is your space.
It is, huh? Okay, if you say so. It is not a complicated problem. Anytime something simple appears to be very complex, it's being made to be complex. The model that we had for funding higher education was based on a certain population at a certain point in time. And at a time when job opportunities were aplenty, and the population of young people either seeking to acquire higher education or wanting to go to university had not reached the numbers that we have. But you see, that is not the issue. We have Kenya Bureau of Statistics. We understand the population bulge. We understand the growth of it. And we have a ministry that deals with planning. That's what they're supposed to do. You are supposed to look and say, project. This is where we are, and this is where we are going, and this is what we need to do to cater for the future. Okay? We had a period when higher education learning took a completely upward trajectory. When the universities understood that there are people who had previously not been able to get a degree or higher education, and they introduced a system that enabled people who are working to actually go back to school. And they charged a premium for it. They also considered that there are people who may want to do certain courses but didn't get the required grade to actually be enrolled in that course. So a parallel alternative was provided for, and again, a premium was paid. So during that period of time, universities were awash with cash. That's when some universities went on a buying spree. Some bought commercial buildings, some bought hotels, some put up buildings. See, now, at some point this had to plateau. And that's around the same period when they started opening campuses all over the landscape to meet these needs. That's where you hear, there was a Tharakanithi. All these were satellite colleges, okay? They were not universities. Rongo University. All these universities around the world, around the country, were campuses of existing universities, and they were meeting a need. With the time, they were given their own charters, and they became universities. Now, the problem then began there. You start the university, there is a population that needs to be there. Then there was the issue of staffing. We didn't have adequate personnel. Over time, we had adequate personnel. Now, again, against this backdrop, remember, there's fees being paid, fees not being paid, there are bursaries, there's government funding. Now, government funding, for it to be equitable, required that the government was collecting enough money to have these needs met. Now, I have actually not stated the problem. The problem was that the thieving culture that we Kenyans have taken as part and parcel of the way we do business took root. So money that was intended to actually further and expand that particular sector found its way in people's pockets. Because you cannot explain when you look at the amounts and you're told about the pending bills. For there to be a budget and an amount, it means that money was disbursed. And it was disbursed because it was known, the function for which it was purposed was known. So if the purpose was not achieved and the money was also spent, so the question is, where did the money go to? Now, that has over time been the case and has spiraled. And it has been carried over. So we now find it isn't only universities. Many of our public universities have a similar problem. Some greater than others. But that's where we are.
But I also wonder, when you have a university that's being funded to sort of expand into other countries, is part of the problem that because they have access to these government funds, that some of these feasibility studies are not very on point, that they don't really go in and actually do their work to know, will this work or will it not? And then it starts to look more like it's a real estate deal as opposed to like an education deal.
Yes, there's that perspective, but also there may be a need at that particular point in time when you started off, and that need may ebb at some point. See, you plan. The whole thinking around planning is not just you foresee what will be in your interest. There must be the consideration for a downturn. What do we do when things don't work out exactly as we planned? Because there was a time when these universities did have students.
True.
So what happened? What probably happened is probably the country where these particular universities set up also began expanding their own universities. Yes. So, but when you say that there's a possibility that this was some real estate deals, that is very likely. Remember, they were expanding. And they expanded and they expanded and they expanded. There's a term that colloquially is used in economics. It's called the tycoon's big mistake. When somebody thinks they are cash rich and they can do all manner of things and they are almost unbeatable, and they keep making decisions which are very large, then they hit a ceiling.
And Sigei, you've mentioned something that is very critical in the sense that at a time when Kenya was considered to be the education hub, pretty much, especially for East Africa, anyone who wanted to get...
It still is.
It still is, yep. At a time when everyone wanted to come to Kenya to get this good education, still is. But when we were expanding to these other countries, they were equally dealing with the fact that they have to produce, they have to provide education to their own. They have to expand their access to tertiary universities. And by the time it gets to a situation that we have our own universities, company universities expanding, and probably just next door, at that point, a Ugandan would say, I want to go to my very own, patriotic to the nation. At that point, these universities therefore stop having students as they used to, because internally the government is doing something to address that problem. And at what point then should these universities realize it is not working for us? Perhaps let's go back home and invest this.
It's a problem with people who undertake business ventures and are not business people. There are times you shut something down because if you don't, it's just going to accumulate and acquire more debt. Remember, while we're opening universities, many Kenyan students were also studying in our neighboring countries. Why? Many found the fees that was being charged more easy to accommodate. There were Kenyans studying in Uganda, and in Ugandan institutions, studying in Rwanda, in Rwandan institutions, Tanzanian institutions. That was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
But what it points down to, we had a plan. The implementation clearly encountered a hiccup. That is one. But also, this get-rich-quick culture that we've adopted, the people or the institutions that have suffered the most are public institutions. Because if you look at just the wanton wastage, which, if you look carefully, seems to suggest some serious plundering, this has been at the heart of many of these problems. Forget these things of God knows, money was available, it didn't do what it was supposed to do, it ended up in some people's pocket. It's really not complicated. Yes.
All right. So, Sigei, now I think let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we talk to Kenyans who are listening to us from across the globe. We shall be reading some of you who've joined us right here. But now, let's take a short commercial break. We will be back in a few.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
This festive season, gift yourself the magic of realness. Because whether it's a laugh, a cry, or a gasp, it's better when it's shared. With Del Monte, the real moments are more enjoyable. Drink up and make merry with those who keep it real this 12 days of Christmas and beyond. This festive season, it's not about what's under the tree. It's about the real joy we create around it.
Made from 100% real fruit juice with no added sugar or preservatives. Enjoy Del Monte. Real, recognize real.
The weather with SpiceFM. Spice up your life.
The traffic in Nairobi seems to be piling up as the time goes by. If you look at Nairobi now around National Museum, that is Waiyaki Way, nothing much seems to be happening. The roads are clear, and but if you go towards Thika Road around Muthaiga Square, it is piling up by the minute. If you're crossing the CBD using that route, be careful and approach the area cautiously. Now around Railways Bar, bus station, that is the railways roundabout. There is traffic. That seems to be those who are accessing the railway stage there. There is a little bit of traffic at the roundabout. And along Landis Road as well, there seems to be traffic a little bit for those who are entering the town, and along Jogoo Road as well. There is a bit of traffic. Now, Mombasa Road, Capital Center area seems to be piled up as the day goes by. But remember that even as you head to your places of work this morning, be sure to be careful on the road and considerate for everybody using the road, whether pedestrian, boda guy, or a cyclist. Be careful on the road.
This
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Many thanks for watching SpiceFM. Welcome to the Situation Room. And right now, I just want to recognize those who are watching and listening to us online. And now we have Rose Grace, who's tuned in from, is it Tamu or Lamu?
No, Tamu is where I come from.
Tamu is where you come from.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my village mate.
Rose Grace from Tamu telling us to have a blessed day. And Cyprian Kambuni. Good morning, SpiceFM family dynasties are back together. That is according to Cyprian Kamunde and Robert Mbogo. Good morning from Mombasa. Mombasa kwa semaje, mko salama? And Jimmy Wekesa, good morning from Munich. That is 0 degrees Celsius. And Zachary OK. Hi Spice family, good morning this Tuesday. The handshake happened. Murima is becoming slippery for the president. Now, Jimmy Gakio, good morning Team Spice, fellow Kenyans. And we have Agola, good morning, morning people. Now, Bere Bethwell as well is watching from Ngecha Limuru City. Why is the politics syllabus running so fast that the first in command went to Ichaweri? CP City will be responding to that. And Duncan Monari as well. Good morning, Team Spice. Did I see Ruto take us back to the dynasties? Majabu. That's according to Duncan Munari. And James Kamau as well is watching from Phony, Texas. And Moses Nyambura, good morning. Ready for the day. We are ready for the day as well. And we say hello to the entire production team as well. Those are the guys who make these a success. Now, as well, we have Linus Gitonga. Good morning. We need IEBC, that is his concern. Kisa Daniel, Jumbo Spice, EACC should pull up their socks. This is with regard to the corruption stories that we continue hearing in the country. And yes, indeed, EACC should do something about it. And good morning. Eric is not here today, but we shall fikisha the salamus to him. And CT Aseto and my online kuzos as well. And Kevin Samuel as well has been recognized. Good morning, Samuel. And Chamgate, my beautiful people, that is Anne Gore now. Sandra Cherrier, it's 10 p.m. in Costa Rica. Good morning to you from Costa Rica. Now from Hong Kong, that is Robinson Kisero. There's a possibility of fixing sense in our politicians. Now, good morning from Latvia. Looking forward to today's topics as well. That will be coming to you and everybody else who is following up on Spice FM, the Situation Room today. We are here to bring you all these conversations, because you can only get that right here on Spice FM, the Situation Room. City.
Yes.
We were talking about matters to do with education in this country, right? And yes. as there is all this that is happening, we also recognize the fact that as we speak today, the education funding model still is a problem. We have our universities closing down. Our lecturers just went back to class the other day. We are having a lot of problems in our country with regard to education system, be it from the primary, be it high school. We have a lot that we need to be addressed in the country. And we see here that Supreme Court orders university to pay former tenant 53 million shillings for breach of contract. I mean, City, when it comes to these institutions and renting spaces, just in trying to offer these services to Kenyans, which rightfully so, Kenyans deserve to access education. But What is the plan around the decisions being made with regard to offering these services, CT? Is the big question.
Kevin, what do you think?
I think there's a few things that are happening. On one hand, you have to look at the change in culture around education. Even in places like the US and the UK and parts of Europe, universities are finding it harder and harder to get students in. Why? Few things. A lot of students are now opting to go into trade schools because they've seen the value of being able to learn an actual, tangible skill that they can use throughout their life. And the other thing is that a lot of universities have been accused, and I believe rightfully so, of not keeping up with the changes of the day in terms of what they're educating people on and about. So outside of the structural issues that we're talking about, I think the bigger picture issue, really not just on a regional but on a global scale, is that education as we have known it in the traditional sense has started to lose a little bit of its value. It got comfortable being sort of like the absolute necessary route for everybody to have to go through, and that's now being challenged. You've got kids who are going to trade schools in places like Texas who are earning 3 times as much as their colleague who decided to go study a psychology degree at the University of Texas. And so questions are being asked. Have universities finally sort of broken, and what's the move after that?
It's the same question we're beginning to ask, because remember, if you look at the history of this country, everything that we seem to want to do now, we actually used to do it. We had technical high schools, meaning a school that offered the regular subjects that other schools offer, but the leaning was towards the technical subjects. Meaning, whether it was masonry, whether it was woodwork, metalwork, drawing, all the technical subjects were offered. So when you left a technical school, it was a secondary school, you could then either go to a village polytechnic, depending on what you wanted to do, or you went to a national polytechnic to now acquire more knowledge. And if you look at the structure of our polytechnics, the practicums that they had, after every learning session, a year, you went in for a practicum, meaning an attachment where you actually learned. So by the time you graduated 3 years down the line, you were really adept at what it is that you do.
Absolutely.
And for the longest time, employers found students who studied in our polytechnics were the choice employees. That's where they preferred to choose employees from. But remember, we had the tertiary colleges. You see, what we're now calling TVETs existed. But at a lower point, there were schools that fed into it. Somewhere along the line, we just diminished these things. Even these technical colleges like Kenya Technical, KTTC, all these things were watered down over time, and the focus seemed to have been university.
Yes.
The Technical University of Kenya was the Polytechnic, Nairobi the Polytechnic, rather the Kenya Polytechnic. We didn't focus. And the one time, the Federal German Republic of Germany wanted to assist us in building from scratch a technical university.
Interesting.
Our politics and all the nonsense that goes with it went this way, that way, and that went. We never did get to build it. So historically, we were there. We're now clawing back to try and figure out how best. Because the gap for these services diminished because the individuals who were actually trained to do this work over time just diminished in number. And also remember, there was a prestige that went with acquiring a degree.
Absolutely. It's a semantic issue as well. They positioned university degrees as prestigious, and they positioned them against these trade degrees and called them blue-collar certifications.
Exactly. So people prefer to get the degree because it had more allure. When you're a graduate and a degree holder, there's a lot more to it. And yet, the individuals who had actually gone and studied these skills were actually the ones who are actually more adept to the market than the degree holder. Yes.
Yeah, and so you see, when you talk about even the technical institutions that we used to have, that is the colleges and whatnot, if you look at an economy like Germany, it has been built on the backdrop of these technical institutions. And even here in Kenya, I know of an institution where you get your diploma here, but if you get a scholarship to go to like the United Kingdom, you get there to do a master's degree. That is right here in Kenya. And you see, this shows you that, and this is an institution that was started by the colonialists still exists today. That means that what you're trying to play catch up existed. We only forgot what was necessary, what was important for us to do, and thought that let's go for university degrees. Not that it's bad, it is good, but we forgot to build on what we already had and was doing very well in our community and in our society. Siti, before we go any further, today, where are we getting our proverb from? The country of Lesotho.
For the whole of this week, yes, that is what our proverbs are from. It's actually the kingdom.
The kingdom of Lesotho.
Yes, it's yes. It's formerly known as Basotho land. Okay, it contains the highest peak in Southern Africa called the Maloti Mountains. They have a population that is almost a third of the city of Nairobi. 2 million.
2 million.
Yes. It's an interesting country. Every time you look at the history of African countries, somewhere in the background is always turmoil and strife and some civil war.
Yeah.
Their strife was that the military took over at some point, and after a while, I think the citizenry figured that perhaps it wasn't such a bad idea if the king came back. And so the king did come back, and the king is still on his throne. He's called Letsie III. Okay? He has a prime minister called Sam Matekane. They have a parliament, they have a senate, and they have a national assembly. Okay, they got their independence in 1966. Now this is strange because this particular kingdom was formed in 1824, 200 years ago.
Yeah, exactly 200 years.
200 years.
Yes, that's when they came into being and they were doing their stuff. Then now they get independence, and they had been independent from 1824. Anyway, let's look at the proverb. A person is a person because of other people.
Interesting. A person is a person because of other people.
Yes.
What do you make of it?
So it's an interesting one that you're bringing up because there's something I was having a conversation with a friend, very smart guy, and he brought up this thing by I think a French philosopher called Girard, and it's called mimetic desire. Mimetic means to mimic. And he talks about the fact that the things that we desire not because we desire internally, we desire them because other people desire them. And it roots, who's discussing the problems we have in society and how you have this mimetic rivalry between things. But when I hear about that, a person is constructed by the people around him. A person's sense of what his value is, of what he finds meaningful, is very rarely innate. You can take, again, they've done this so many times, twins born, separated, different parts of the world, and then you meet them after 20 years, very, very different people. Same genetics, same proclivities, but based on where they are and how they develop, they become very different people. So that, I think, helps to explain that proverb.
I think it's a proverb that would be interpreted differently. I choose not to interpret it today. I will
leave that to our guests.
I will leave that to our guests to do. But even as we talk about that situation, I mean, I look at politicians and pretty much just even what we think of ourselves out there and how it affects how we think about it. But that again, let's have our guest talk about that. And the guest that we'll be having today will be Professor Pielo Lumumba, advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika, and his legal, political and institutional challenges. Will the IEBC achieve legitimacy before 2027? IEBC is a conversation that is big in this country today. Justice, Judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Isaac Lenaola, brought this on Friday last week, and everyone has been talking about it. We have hashtags from IEBC now, and conversation is going. We see Kalonzo Musyoka as well, just saying, "Don't blame me, but just go fix your own problems and make sure you have IEBC." And that is the lawyer professor will be taking us through that in the next hour. City, but I want us to go back now to matters to do with education as we just conclude, as we move forward, before we invite the guests. Now, when we talk about matters to do with education in this country, do we need a change? Do we need to improve on what it is we are doing? How do we go about it just to fix the mess that is in the education sector, City?
Ask yourself a very simple question. What is it about us that every time you have a new president, he has to bring in something new? And very rarely do they improve on what exists. Are we saying that what they found was beyond repair? Are we saying that it was not possible for whatever it is they found to have been tinkered with so that it is actually okay? You ask the question of an education system and look around the world. How many countries around the world do what we do? As we overhaul our education system, how many people do this? People tinker with it, they improve it. They leave what is working to continue working, improve it over time, add what is necessary. That's what they do. Remember, change comes with a cost. And that is a problem, because it's not just education. Everything that we do in this country, yes, it's like if you don't overhaul it, you haven't done anything. And in my opinion, that is a false narrative. If something was working and is problematic, look at the problem and sort out the problem. Yes. There's a word we use. It's called an upgrade.
Throwing the baby out with the bathwater is basically what you're talking about.
Upgrade the thing. If you're saying it is beyond upgrading, tell us why it is beyond upgrading. Okay? Every time you look at education, you look at the budget, 600 billion that we have for education. The understanding is that this is the one thing that we consider to be the most important for our citizenry.
Right.
But even if you understand in matters to add 1 + 1, do you see 600 billion shillings worth of education anywhere? Because it's money for universities, primary schools, secondary schools, all these things. It's a heck of a lot of money. It is twice what all the counties receive per year.
Wow.
It's not a small amount. And they receive this every year. So when you ask the question of education, you are asking a question that gets to the very heart of how we think and the soul of us as a people. Because you cannot have a rickety educational system that guarantees that those who are in it are going to be disadvantaged moving forward. So you have an entire population of very young people who are starting off on a wrong footing from the get-go. The expansion of private schools is not a good thing. One, it speaks of the government having abrogated its responsibility. B, it tells you that only those who have the means to take the children to private schools will enable the children to have a good education. And those who can't will not. So you are actually creating an entire class of Kenyans who will be underprivileged, and they will know they're underprivileged.
You've turned education into a commodity, not a right.
You've actually weaponized education. This is the thing that you don't seem to understand. And somewhere along the line, this discontentment will catch up with us, because there'll be a whole slew of individuals who are citizens who have the same rights as everybody else, who will know they were disadvantaged deliberately. And they will not be asking who disadvantages. They'll know they're disadvantaged, and they'll want to right that wrong. These are the things that turmoil is made of. And we are fermenting it on a daily basis. Now, this one, there is no finger pointing at the government. No. The government is the chief culprit, yes. The agency of the government, chief culprits. But there is no way a student in a school will know where to buy an exam paper, pay for it, and teach themselves how to pass the exam. This involves the collusion of the parent and the teachers and whoever else is involved. And this tripartite is what we see in every institution. Every time we want to point a finger at the government, we forget that it wouldn't work if other people who are not in government did not collude.
Thank you.
It's really that simple.
Kevin?
100%. I think the idea of us being so comfortable as to placing the blame outside is something we've gotten very, very comfortable with as a society. I mean, I was listening to the show yesterday, and you know, the calls for even if you take it to the calls of Ruto must go. My question to that is always, if there's one camp of people with signs saying Ruto must go, there should be another camp of people with signs up saying, and then what? It's this idea of where do we get to finally point fingers at ourselves and take responsibility for our part to play in things. It's a painful thing because when people are going through difficult things, it's easier for them to scapegoat, to find something out there. But as CT says, we're part of it. We're colluding with the rest of the system.
And I just come from a point where when City has mentioned something to do with education system in the country and the advent of public schools, private schools, and all that. I am a student of public school, primary, high school, all the way. All the way to campus. And I remember at a time when Kimalel Primary School in Eldoret, Pioneer, that's where I went to. Yeah?
Shout out.
That is what's the issue. Just they have to know. They have to know their son is here. And you see, this is a time where competition was really tight between public and private schools, and we used to shine, bro. We didn't used to play around. We used to shine, and it was not a question of I am taking my child to private school because they offer. It could be because I have the financial muscle too.
Right.
But it's a question where when it came to matters to do with even getting admission to high schools, priority was public schools because the performance was top notch. It was really, really good. And when I sit here today and look at what we've done to our education system, we ask, is it a question of education has turned to be the one who can afford education gets the very best, as opposed to education is a right to each and every child, each and every citizen of this country as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic. And when we look at it, we ask, we need to fix the problems in the education sector. We need not to every other time, as City says, overhaul the entire system, because there is a financial aspect that is embedded on changing and overhauling all these. Yet, we could sit back and say, this is the problem we have in the education system. Let's fix it. Let's not change it, because when you change it, it's like having a new software. It would hang, it would do each and everything in this world before you find it right. But we could tinker the problem, we could fix the problem and have a situation where our education is working, our education is moving on the right direction. City, close it up for us.
58 years down the line is when William Ruto became president. From the first president, every government has its good and its bad, and every president inherits whatever was there, good or bad. You want to blame, apportion the blame correctly. You cannot blame this one president for 58 years of issues that happened before his time that have piled on. Look at the specific issues that he is responsible for, and if you want to blame him for those ones.
And it is 7 a.m. It is the news time with Lydiah Ubaga. Good morning.
Up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lydiah Ubaga. The rate of police officers engaging in crime has risen this year. The report by the National Council on Administration of Justice for the ended financial year showed that more cops engaged in reported criminal offences, forming part of the general spike. The report says 203 offences in which police officers were either involved as accomplices or as the main accused persons were recorded. Some of the crimes police have allegedly committed include human trafficking, actively engaging in violent criminal activities, and loaning out firearms to gangs. The government, through the Office of the Women's Rights Advisor, is exploring mechanisms to set up a sustainable gender-based violence fund to address the growing concerns over skyrocketing cases in the country. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi announced that the fund would support government programs and campaigns to combat GBV and provide comprehensive care for survivors as part of ongoing efforts to create a safer country for all. Citing a recent UN Women report, Mudavadi noted that nearly 1 in 3 women globally experience violence in their lifetime, with Africa recording the highest number of femicide cases in 2022. The African Center for Open Governance has issued a stark warning about the state of corruption in Kenya. In its 2024 report, the civil society organization accuses President William Ruto's administration of enabling a culture of corruption, citing unchecked scandals, misuse of public funds, and excessive external borrowing. According to the report, Kenya acquired 36 new loans in the past year alone, amounting to approximately 900 billion shillings, with minimal accountability regarding the expenditure. The report comes amid heightened scrutiny of President Ruto's 2 years in office, including controversial moves such as the push for appointing chief administrative secretaries, punitive tax measures, and the contentious Adani-Ketraco power transmission deal.
The view of an overwhelming majority of Kenyans is that this country is headed in the wrong direction and that the president is the one who is most responsible.
Only 11% in September believed that the country was headed in the right direction. The higher up you are in terms of political and social connections, the more likely you will not serve a sentence. The more likely an appeal would be expedited.
Now, besides AFRICOG feeling that the country is headed in the wrong direction, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka says the Kenya Kwanza government's performance is below average. Kalonzo attributed this to the rise in abductions, especially on government critics, and President Ruto's recent pepper remarks towards those pointing out mistakes of his government.
The amorphous, so-called, I quote-unquote, affordable housing project. This project is shrouded in blatant opaqueness. This can only speak to corruption in high places in a compromised national state. Unfortunately, when Kenyans ask questions about this opaque project, they're accused of being unpatriotic, tribal, hostile to the government, and idle. Indeed, wenye upepo mbaya. Both the opacity and the hostility by the state against inquiry speak to only one thing: corruption.
Kalonzo reiterated that the government was to blame for the delay in reconstituting IBC, saying Azimio forwarded Dr. Koki Muli's name to sit on the panel to appoint them, but the government blocked him.
This is the clogging. But I'm telling you, the truth of the matter is the state interfered, to make sure that Koki Muli's name is not forwarded. Unfortunately, the names have to be forwarded as a team, the 9 of them. And I think my friend Weta knows the truth.
Meanwhile, government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura has blamed court injunctions for stopping the IBC recruitment process.
Kuna watu ambao wameingia, wamepeleka serikali kotini, wameweza kwenda kusema kwamba kuna mambo ya ile panel. Wengine ambao pia wanahusika na swala hili zima tu vyama fulani vya kisiasa. Tungependa kuwaomba, kwa sababu tunataka kuwa na IBC, waweze kuondoa zile kesi. Waondoe hizo kesi, ndiposa tuwe na tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka. Nafikiri hilo ni jambo ambalo tungependa kusisitizia, kwamba sio sisi kama serikali, ambapo hata sisi wenyewe tungependa kuona kwamba tuna hiyo tume, ndio tuweze kujitayarisha vizuri.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
And traffic is piling up in various regions in Nairobi as we speak right now. Mombasa Road is getting busy by the moment. This is also due to the fact that there is construction ongoing. Therefore, if you're trying to access the CBD from Mombasa Road, be cautious. If you can find alternative routes towards the CBD, make sure you do that. Areas around Parklands, that is Thika Road, around KCA University, Muthaiga Square is equally bumper to bumper. Be careful as you approach that area. Equally around Landis Road, Railways bus stop again is busy as had earlier been indicated. Lusaka Road roundabout as well is busy by the moment. And just now it is a peak time. If you are trying to access the CBD, be sure to be careful. Ngong Road as well around Prestige Plaza is getting busy by the moment. Be sure to talk to us. Engage us if you are in the city. Tell us how the roads are and we shall be updating you.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion. Opposite. Ukisikiliza namna hii unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room. Spice. The only way to start your day. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning and thank you for watching and listening to Spice FM. This is The Situation Room. My name is Dennis Aseto and with me is C.T. Muga and Kevin Samuel, who is our guest host. Now, C.T., when we talk about matters to do with dealing with the future, planning around it, there is a partner who is with us throughout this entire process, and I'm talking about the Standard Chartered Bank.
You know, the thing about keeping money reminds one of one simple reality. You actually must have it in order to keep it. And there's keeping it under a mattress. That is, of course, if you have a mattress, or keeping it under a stone if there's a stone nearby. And there's keeping it so that it actually increases in value. Now, that's where Standard Chartered comes in. Because what they're saying is this: look, most people understand how to earn or make money, but how to make that money grow so that it helps you in the present and in the future is something that is a bit alien to them. Now, Standard Chartered have been at this business for over 100 years. And in 100 years, they have learned the very thing that I'm saying, and in great detail, to the benefit of very many people who have chosen to trust them with their money. And the opportunity presents itself. All one needs to do is there's this thing called the internet, okay? If you look for wealth.kenya@sc.com, wealth.kenya@sc.com, the information that I have just mentioned to you and more will be available to you, and you can decide on the steps you want to take. But to make it better, you will be directed towards an individual whose sole purpose will be to ensure that the needs you have are met with the finances that you have available. Remember, these are people who know, train, and this is what they do on a daily basis. And they will open that world to you so that you can benefit from the expertise. And this money that you have can become wealth, and it can grow to become even more wealth. That is Standard Chartered for you. Yes.
And now, after taking your money and serving it well at the end of the day, we also need another partner who actually takes their time to choose the fruit that they want to put into, that want to make your life even better. And you're talking about Del Monte.
You know, the thing about food is there is no limit as to how many anecdotal things have been said about food. A fruit in time saves 9. It's actually a stitch, okay? An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but if you don't have an apple, then you could say a mango a day, a guava a day. Now, Del Monte have understood that for you to consume fruit, you don't actually need to eat it, you can drink it. Okay? Now, I have before me a living testimony of that particular statement. I have 2 Del Monte juices. They're actually fruits that have previously been fruits but are now in liquid form. There's mango pineapple blend and there's tomato. There's always the question, Prof, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? I think it's a vegetable, personally. Yes, exactly. Now, they even know how to make vegetables into juice. So you have the liquid form of the vegetable. And Prof, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to give you one tomato, one mango pineapple.
Very kind of you.
Yes. And if someone tells you that Christmas doesn't come early, you will know they're lying. It does come early. Yes, it has come.
And as well, City, Kevin Samuel as well would want one as well.
Kevin definitely will want one. And Kevin, I am coming in your direction shortly.
I'm here to receive.
Yes. If you see me reaching down, it means that I am actually getting I have them with me here. I am not seeking to find them. I actually have them. Yes. This is one of the benefits of knowing me. Yes.
Yeah. And that is Del Monte. They take their time to choose the fruits that they get to give you to eat it, you know. And on this hour, we want to introduce our guest, Professor PLO Lumumba, advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika, as we talk about legal, political, and institutional challenges. Will the IEBC achieve legitimacy before 2027? Professor, welcome to the Situation Room. You are seated on the hot seat, but today we will have it easy. But before... We'll cool the seat. And CT, as the professor tends to cool the seat, what's the proverb of the day?
Yeah, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the kingdom of Lesotho. Okay? But, formerly Basuto land. A person is a person because of other people.
That is Ubuntu.
Okay. You are because we are.
You are because we are.
Yes. Yeah, we are because we are. Now, Professor, the IEBC has become a subject matter for this country for pretty much a very long time, but it has come to the fore since Friday when Supreme Court Judge Justice Isaac Lenaola spoke about it, and everyone has picked it up as we move forward. And Professor, we ask, does IEBC have the opportunity to achieve its legitimacy for 2027 as we speak right now?
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is a product of the 2010 Constitution and was created deliberately to ensure that we have a body that is neutral, that is professionally run, that conducts credible elections. But we have seen that since its formation...
Professor, we seem to be having a problem with the microphone, but as we sort that out, CT, let us just have a conversation around that as the technical team fixes that. Now, CT, it is a subject matter that is continuing. Yesterday, the former Deputy President, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Wiper leader had addressed himself to the same. Now, it is IEBC. Do not blame me, just remove the court cases and let's continue. Is being honest about it?
Let me just say this as we give it back to the professor to speak. It is an oxymoron to put the word honesty and politician in the same sentence, unless it is that you want to prove something that is contradictory. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, as I was saying, the IEBC, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, was created under the Constitution to ensure that we have a body that conducts credible elections. And this was informed by political bad manners. The Kenyan politicians are generally mannerless individuals who go to the polls on the basis that they must win, they cannot lose. And for that reason, we have had problems during every election cycle. In the last election, of course, we saw the division. Some segment of the commissioners said that the elections had not been properly conducted, and one segment that they had been properly conducted. Since then, it has not been properly constituted. And the law does provide that, and I think this is the Krigler and Waki report, took the view that a credible, properly constituted electoral body should be in place at least 2 years before the election. And this is something that should have been done. But yet we must remember that as a result of this political bad manners, we created something called the National Dialogue Commission, NADCO. And this NADCO is one of these outfits that politicians create periodically in order to calm themselves and to enact or to facilitate the enactment of self-serving laws. And that is part of the reason why IEBC has not been constituted, because the politicians want an IBC where they send their tribesmen and women, where they appoint people who will do their bidding, running away from what we desire, which is an independent boundaries and elections commission. So going forward, what we need is a process that facilitates the appointment of credible individuals who can conduct credible election. Lastly, I know countries where you don't have the equivalent of IEBC. In Germany, you don't have. They just appoint within a certain ministry individuals to run elections. In India, in Africa, we create these bodies because we live on the basis of suspicion and mistrust. So you create a body which is heavy, is expensive, and yet you can't even count votes even when you have created them. So political bad manners will not be cured by enactment of laws or by creation of bodies. We must have a mental revolution and ensure that we inject what I've called elsewhere political hygiene into the way we do things.
You know, the professor has just gone biblical on us. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Indeed.
Yes, that is...
Political hygiene is a good takeaway. That's a very good takeaway.
Kevin, you want to say something?
No, I think for me, just to reiterate that, it's the idea that we live in constant suspicion, I think, is a problem that is so deeply rooted that I even wonder whether a fully functioning IEBC would be something that we would be able to invest in emotionally in the medium term, that even if the IEBC were to work well, quote unquote, it would still take us a long time for us to believe, you know?
The I in IEBC is independent, isn't it?
Independent. Okay. And whenever you hear people using words such as independent in the body or democratic, it knows there is no independence in those bodies. When you are independent, you don't need to have it as a part of your name. That is part of our problem.
Yeah, and there is the legal aspect of IEBC being formed and being in place because there are timelines involved. That is what the Constitution speaks to the formation of IEBC within 2 years. Now, when we talk about IEBC, the problem, even the entire sending home of the commissioners, is something we knew immediately after the election. What is stopping the bodies that be in forming this IEBC to start preparing? Because at the end of the day, we have always seen that IEBC is always being blamed for starting their preparations late, not having enough resources in time or on time to prepare for these elections. Therefore, who is not telling us the truth, Professor?
What is the IEBC? You know, we focus too much on the commissioners.
Yeah.
The commissioners are at a policy level, they don't. The heavy lifting is actually undertaken by the Secretariat. So that we focus on the commissioners because they are the public face of the IEBC. And what we are saying is that for the IEBC to be properly constituted, you need the commissioners to give policy direction and policy guidance. And I can tell you, if there was political goodwill, that can be done very quickly. What is happening, as I've said, is that there is so much suspicion. People want to constitute a body to have commissioners whom they can control. When I hear the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka saying, we nominated so-and-so, they did so, and I respect the individual who is in place. But how is it always the case? Then when people are called upon to nominate individuals, they can't get them outside of their tribe. They can't get them. This navel gazing where people cannot see beyond their children and their relatives and their tribesmen is Kenya's problem. So let us now agree that we need to constitute an IEBC properly, and we do it and do it quickly so that they can also go into the business of delimitation of boundaries and other things. The sooner it is done, the better. all these arguments that I hear the deputy president talking about, that they are court cases, if there is goodwill, all those cases can be dealt with and the interests of the country can be attended to. But, you know, there are very few Kenyans. Most politicians are not Kenyans. They see Kenya as a hunting ground. They are actually low-voltage ethnic warlords who are quick to be in outfits such as Murembe, Gema, Luo. And that is why you see an individual in the 21st century. In a world we are talking about East African integration and African integration, you still have Gema. You still have somebody say the Akamba have joined Gema. You still have the Luo saying that this is now the lake. You have the Avaluhia saying this is now the Mulembe nation. You have the Kalenjin saying this is ours. I wish they could read Koigi Wawa Mwere's Toward Genocide in Kenya, the Curse of Negative Ethnicity. Until we liberate ourselves from such chauvinism and atavism, this country is not going to realize our potential. And I hold the view, CT, that there is a generation of Kenyan politicians who, as long as they remain active in politics, Kenya will never know true progress. Unless we consign them to the Museum of History alongside the spinning wheel, we'll keep on having these musical chairs. And the sooner we realize that, the safer this country will be.
City, you seem to be...
Well, it's the adjectives that are amusing me because they're very appropriate. You see, if you look at the idea behind political parties and how it is and why they were formed around ideologies. Meaning we have this understanding of how it is we feel we need to lead our people, to put it simply. And in this country, we speak of it. We even have manifestos which are documented. The only odd thing is that most of those manifestos seem really alike. You half the time you're not sure which one you're reading, but they all seem to be saying the same thing. Or the thinking is the same. But the thought leadership that an ideology is supposed to bring forth doesn't actually exist. Because if it did, then every time you had politicians standing on a podium to represent a party, they would be telling you that this is our ideology, this is how we see it. And anytime they were in a position of authority, and in this country it's very easy to see it because they're represented in the county governments, you would see that ideology being put to practice. But what do you see? To understand what we see, you need to look at the Auditor General's report.
Yes.
You need to look at the report that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission keeps bringing up. It tells you exactly what it is. And it tells you the ideology, not the spoken one, but the one which is practiced. Because those two bodies bring out the rot that exists. And that is the manifestation of the ideology. And the professor is actually quite right. If that is the state of affairs that we find ourselves in, then anytime we talk about moving forward, that's all we'll do. We will talk about it. And there are those who think we are stagnant. We're actually not. We're actually moving backwards.
Correct.
We're actually regressing. Yes. Because if generation after generation, the mantra is the same, and yet you're talking about an entirely new generation, you're talking about problems that existed in small measure, which have now multiplied, and the thinking hasn't changed. How do you think you are going to solve these problems? How?
Professor, I have a question, if I may. You know, one of the things that what we need to consider is that at the end of the day, we're social creatures. So, especially when things tend to start going badly within the national picture, people tend to coalesce around their tribes even more because of the distrust of the structures around them. So the question is, how do people as Kenyans of different tribes balance between their identity, what they recognize as themselves within a particular group of people, but also to be able to function wholly as a fellow Kenyan?
You know, when we were in the process of making the constitution in the early 2000s, Ali Mazrui delivered a paper in the year 2000. The title of the paper, If African politics are ethnically prone, can we have constitutions that are ethnic proof? And in that paper, Ali argues, amongst other things, that typically in a number of African countries, Kenya included, the tribe is actually a tool that is used by the myopic politician to manipulate their people. Because the truth be told, if a minister is from your tribe, what change in your life does it bring about? Is the education the sector the better for you because it's from your tribe, or the health sector the better for you, or agriculture the better for you? This is simply something that benefits the individual and a few. And unless we realize that, perhaps what happens is that when a cabinet minister is appointed from your tribe, they slaughter 30 cows for the day. Perhaps that is the only thing you enjoy. But beyond that, they have a national duty. And I have held the view that we can change it. The very reason why, when we were talking about political parties fund, and City, you've mentioned it, we were saying that if you want to put together a political party in Kenya, it must have a national face. It must have a presence, physical presence, in at least half of the counties. And we fund them. That is the whole idea of funding political parties, so that it's not dependent on individuals. But we have failed. We have failed because of the quality of the politicians we have. They don't know better. Even the coalitions that we have had over the years, whether it is the NASA, CORD, Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, it is tribes, it's tribal leaders who are coming together, and they promise their tribesmen and tribeswomen things that are pie in the sky, things that will never happen. It can change. There is a small group of Kenyans who believe that the Kenyan project is possible. It is not going to be easy. And I remember in the early days in Mozambique, Samora Machel, it is he who said it, that for the new African nation to survive and thrive, the tribe must die. But he qualified. I do not mean that you lose identity. The identity remains for cultural reasons. But we cannot, in the 20th century, use the tribe to determine how we want to grow our economy. And it can be done. And we must stop these individuals. How do we stop them? Is by educating a new crop of voters who will vote on the basis of manifestos. I want to hear somebody telling me, if it is the health sector, if it is university education, if it is agriculture, how are you going to deal with it? And I have given this example ad nauseum. When you go into a plane, you are flying from Nairobi to Mombasa, do you ever ask, what is the tribe of the pilot? You don't care. You simply want a competent pilot.
Pilot, yes.
But when we want our nation to be piloted, we then ask which tribe. So we must make a deliberate, see our neighborhood in Tanzania. How is it that a country with over 136 ethnicities, they have succeeded in ensuring that the tribe does not matter in national political discourse? It can be done. But in Kenya, we don't have political parties. These are ethnic election outfits.
Professor, let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we dive deep into how to get rid of these political outfits, tribal outfits that we have, and forge a nation, a future that is free from tribalists, but of citizens who are patriotic and who love their country and want things to move the right way. More on that after the break.
Here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
And before the traffic, now weather in Nairobi County, that is 25 degrees highs and lows of 15 degrees. Now Kakamega County will be experiencing highs of 30 degrees and lows of 15 degrees. And Mombasa City, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. Now we go to our neighboring country, Uganda, and the capital city Kampala will be experiencing highs of 29 degrees and lows of 18 degrees. And Kinshasa, Congo, that is in the DRC, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 24 degrees. And now we go straight into the traffic now. Nairobi, the situation is getting worse by the moment, as we can experience right now. That is around Landis Road. It is building up by the moment. Langata Road getting to the CBD is equally busy. And around Imara Daima, that is along Mombasa Road, is equally bumper to bumper. Remember, Mombasa Road is under construction, and equally Thika Road around Survey is fully packed. If you are trying to access the CBD, be sure to use alternative routes, and equally just be careful and careful on the road, and remember that everybody on the road is equally important.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
And good morning. Welcome. Now, the traffic in Nairobi, as earlier stated, is busy. And as we get to that, now it is busy at the moment as we progress now. That is around Bena Solar Solutions in Nairobi is busy. And we are just letting you know of what is happening on the roads. If you're trying to access the CBD, be careful while at it. And along Mombasa Road, it is packed. Remember, there is construction ongoing within Mombasa Road. Be sure to look at your map and access the CBD using alternative routes. And now, CT, as we went to the break now, we were discussing matters to do with politics of intolerance and the misbehavior on the politics in this country. And as we forge our way forward, now there is a lot to be packed with that. But let's talk about matters to do with the wealth and how we can save it up, how we can put it in good ways, how we can make sure that our future is bright.
There's something called priority banking. Okay, many banking institutions have a form of it where you are promised a service that is exemplary. You are promised that the wealth that you have within the institution will be well looked after. That is not what Standard Chartered offers. Standard Chartered offers you a journey that will see the money that you have turn into wealth. So essentially what they're giving you is what you call a wealth proposition. They're saying, look, if you want to understand how money can grow, let us hold your hand and show you how it is done. You do not have to have a lot of money. Come to us with whatever you have. We will be able to explain to you, walk with you, and help you grow it. And when I say grow it, it means if you have needs in the present, it will be taken care of. If you have needs in the immediate future, it will be taken care of. If you have needs in the distant future, it will be taken care of. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You come when you are ready. And to understand all this, go to wealth.kenya@sc.com. And all this information will be made available to you.
Say wealth?
Wealth.kenya@sc.com.
And right there, you will get all the services and assistance that you need to be able to take care of your wealth. Now, Professor, you said it is a question of EEC, and it is all about ethnic vehicles that put people into these offices. We don't have political parties, Professor. But as we forge our way forward, we are looking at a situation where IEBC has to be in place before the 2027 elections. And the earlier it is put in place, we are at a better place for us to have credible IEBC that Kenyans will say this body delivered to us. And if we just look at the paper today, now Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka denies stalling IEBC selection panel formation. He says that our Deputy President Kithure Kindiki said the parties in court are the ones delaying formation of selection panel. Now, IEBC CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan has said the commission has petitioned the Supreme Court on whether time for delimitation of boundaries can be extended. This is a legal matter right here.
You know, goodwill and love for country, which we call patriotism, cures all. If there is political goodwill and people identify what it is that is in the best interest of the country, all those issues that Mr. Musyoka is talking about, Dr. Professor Kindiki talking about, and Marjan can be resolved in a single day. The problem is that there are backroom issues. People say on the platform things that they don't do in the background. The politicians actually want to control the process so that they have men and women who will do their bidding once they get into the IEBC. So what needs to be done is to bring pressure to bear, that the process is credible and that the men and women who are chosen to head that body holding all factors constant are credible. So now that the mood is there, and it appears that this administration, like most, responds to pressure. Now that the mood is there, it is the right time to bring all these, and very quickly, all matters that are outstanding in court, the courts can order that they be mediated within a time frame, and that they be resolved within a time frame. Once that is done, the process of putting the IEBC together will be complete, so that by the first quarter of the year 2025, we have a fully constituted body that can then begin to do all boundary delimitation, registration, and all the things. And part of the problem, of course, is that the mistrust still continues. That is why we print ballots in Greece and other places. We can print, the government printer can actually print the ballots if we were people who believed in themselves, but we don't. So we want somebody to print them for us. So you can put the IEBC together, and it must be put together, but we must also create an environment where we have faith and trust in institutions that we create, and give them what I call operational autonomy so that they can work.
And Professor, you talk about we print them in Greece, but we also don't trust how they're shipped into the country city.
You know, the trust deficit is a discussion all on its own. But you see, if the leaders we currently have, or the leaders we've had before, and they've been present in all the problems we've had, and they're still the leaders today, what is this thing that you think is going to change?
Nothing. The generation that came from Egypt must metaphorically be wiped out, because there is too much Egypt in them. Even when they are physically out of Egypt, they belong to the Kenya African National Union. They may now belong to this or that party, but their DNA has not changed. And unless we deal with that, we can have what I've already called musical chairs. And I look forward to the emergence of a new crop of politicians, a new crop of leaders who will begin to think differently. This is my hope and prayer, so that we consign these individuals to where they belong, because they don't even know when to leave the stage.
The stage is good for them.
The stage is so good, it makes life so easy. They become multi-millionaires. They have all the trappings of power. They are immune from scrutiny. They have the oxygen of publicity at funerals and at churches. They don't want to leave, but they must be made to leave. And it's through organization that they must be made to leave. We have seen it happening in other countries. The time is now. And I'm quite certain that it can and must be done. As CT says, what is going to change? The monkeys remain the same. The forests change a little, and the forests are the political outfits that they create. But a monkey from forest A in forest B is still that monkey, and the habits remain the same.
So you think by the end of the first quarter of 2025,
yes,
so essentially 3 months and a bit,
yes,
I just wish that as Kenyans we could adopt a bit of a countdown clock culture, meaning that we decide, even if we extend it, say we extend it to the end of Q2, that we decide collectively that the clock is ticking and that everybody's attention is focused on this clock that is ticking for this to be implemented. Because these goalposts can keep moving until we actually decide that we can lock into something.
No president must take leadership in this regard. The president must put together his cabinet and the legislature, and they have a meeting at which they say these are matters of national priority. And that is in the best interest of this nation that these things are done. And once they do that and they come up with a timetable like you are suggesting and saying by the month of March, we want all these things to be in place, it will be done. The people we call the ordinary people, really, when they see a good thing, they'll support it. Because their best interest is that we have peace, that we have credible elections, that they can predict their future. This is where leadership comes in. Leadership is about showing people the direction. But if you hear those in positions of leadership are also helpless, then you wonder, where are we going as a country? Why do you enjoy the honor and privilege if you cannot give direction and discharge your constitutionally conferred mandate?
But Prof, are they really helpless? Or are they feigning helplessness?
Perhaps.
You see, if I look at what it is that those in power do, they don't differ. Whether they're actually in the opposition or whether they are the one running the government, there's not much of a difference. Now, there are those who will say there isn't. If you look at those who were previously in the opposition who have now joined government as CSs, and you look at the mean, are we saying that the problems they spoke against at the time when they didn't have these positions have actually changed? They haven't.
They haven't.
True.
And City, just to buttress what you're saying, if you look at the former deputy president, that is Rigathi Gachagua, when he was in power, he was protecting each and every single policy that the government was in. But now that he's outside, everything about the current government is wrong.
Actually, he takes it a step further. In fact, I like his imagination. He seems to want to present himself as the person who was constantly advising the president against some of these bad decisions. I sometimes wonder, does this guy think we visit this country periodically and other times we're elsewhere? We actually live here.
We see.
And we see and we hear every single day, every utterance. And this is the 21st century. This is a communication age. There is nothing that is said in public that gets lost. It is there for reference. It isn't going anywhere. All we need to do is refer and we'll know. But that is what tells you about the political leadership of this country and the DNA that is either imbued in those who seek and acquire those offices or those who are in it or those who aspire. Because what is a constant is they do not mean what they say. That one, and it's not one person, it's not an individual, it's all of them.
City, if you listen to our political leaders, and I use the word leaders very loosely, they proceed on the assumption that Kenyans are dunderheads with the memory of a mosquito and that we forget so very easily. And that is why they behave the way they do. I mean, you listen to some, you've just talked about these individuals who have just gotten into cabinet. When you listen to the things they were saying a few months ago and what they are saying now, they must think we are complete dunderheads. And it's so insulting. But Malcolm X said it very well. When you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. And these individuals stand for nothing except the position that they hold. And they are a danger to Kenya. And that is why they get very irritated when people who mean well for Kenya are saying what we are saying. Because when people come to forums such as this, our anger is informed by our love for country. and our love for this generation and generations yet to be born. So it is our duty as it is to keep on repeating this thing. Sometimes it will be frustrating. I think it is Muga who in his book Betrayal in the City who said that when the troubles of a country occupy you so much, it's not enough to say that you are mad. But we must, in the nature of things, be concerned. Because otherwise, you listen to the former deputy president and some of the things that he's saying, is, as City says, it's as if he was not part of government. He was part of government. He was intimately in government. Yes. The fact that there has been a fallout does now make him stand into Paul from Saul. No, and we must call them out. And call them out consistently so that the people may know. Because ultimately, this country is yours and ours. And I just wanted to say something about NADCO, which is mentioned something about the IEBC. If you look at the report that was given by the departmental committee, what they are quick and they are going to do very quickly is to focus on CDF, all these funds which they have created, which are fundamentally slush funds. These are the ones that they are focusing on, not on the critical issues. So we've got to be on the alert. You who are in this forum, who are the oxygen that gives us the energy that we need as a country, you must flag these issues out so that the people are aware. Otherwise, we'll get the short hand of the stick again.
You know, when you talk about the CDF fund, or all the funds that are given to those who have been elected, it reminds me of a report I read about this Hustler Fund and how is it that they've tripled the amount you can borrow and they've extended. See, why now? Are we saying that now is when the need has been there? Or are we saying that this amount was always the need even from the beginning when people have been given 500 bob?
Right.
You see, this matter of always trying to appease the people who've been elected. Note, I am avoiding the word leader here.
Yes, you must.
Okay? Or these people who were elected giving themselves, because they do have the power to give themselves certain things. Now, you have to ask the question, how exactly will all these things change what is fundamental? Because what is it that we are saying as a people? We can't afford to live in our own country. It's really not complicated. We don't feel safe in our own country. Our education is in shambles. And we really do not know what to do. Now, these things that are now being spoken of, how exactly will they address? There are many issues. I've just mentioned three. How will it address? And around this discussion, there's the discussion of the mental health of the nation. Sometimes I fear to read the papers because there has to be a mention of some brutality that has taken place, some atrocity that has taken place. It is on the increase. You do not need someone to paint for you this thing in Technicolor to understand that we have a mental health problem.
Crisis.
Thank you very much. You don't need, it is there. So all these things that we are saying and everything else that we keep saying and every debate we keep having, how do they address these issues?
You know, CT, you are so right in terms, because why are governments constituted amongst men? Even when we talk IBC, we want a process that enables men and women who are capable of serving. When you talk about the Hustler Fund, for example, and the minister for the time being in charge of it saying that the repayment rate is dismal. If you are a lender and you are not getting repayment, do you continue to lend? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And there is this assumption that every person is a business person. You give them money, then lo and behold, they convert it and they become multimillionaires. These things must be properly thought out. And look at the sectors that we ought to be thinking about. We ought to be thinking about crisis in education. As he said, we don't even know where to have the junior secondary. We are debating whether it should be in high school or in primary school. We don't know how to fund university students. We can't pay university lecturers. are in a situation where civil servants in the counties have not been paid. Suppliers of goods have not been paid. We are in a crisis. So when you hear a minister saying that our economy is growing, you know, the statistics are lying. They are lying because critical companies are downsizing, redundancies by the day. And when you are in such a situation, you sit down and stop grandstanding. As the wise say, worse than ignorance is arrogance. And one of the problems that we have in this country is arrogance. Individuals who are so hypersensitive that when you say something, they literally want to eat you.
Yeah.
Leadership is about humility. It's about compassion. It's about caring. 2 weeks ago, I drove around Nairobi on a Sunday. Went to the places where I lived. I went to Kibera. I went to Buruburu. I went to Mathare. I went to Korogosho. Talking to people. My people are hungry. People are hungry. And it beggars belief that the political class don't think so. That they can go into the agora with the change and give people 200 shillings and they think they're solving people's problem. No. We must, in the nature of things, begin to think differently. And institutions are collapsing. We must protect them.
And Professor, it is when we talk about matters to do with the Hustler Fund, it was when it was being launched, it was I give you you access this money to grow your business. But based on the research that was done by the government, majority of those who took those loans, they took those loans so that they can fulfill their immediate needs. I'm not able to afford food. I'm not able to buy medicine. Therefore, that Hustler Fund stopped achieving what it was intended to. And today, again, it's being tripled, which begs the question, Business 101, I'm not getting returns here. I focus on other things. I channel this money to something else that will give me returns. But here we are, like the professor saying, we are pushing for that which is not happening. We are arrogant. And when we are criticized, we say, But
you know, in Kenyan speak, some of the individuals who are now ministers, who are in the opposition then, were encouraging the public to take the money and not to repay. They were saying so. Mmepewa fedha kuleni na msilipe. So we and you put it so well that there is a problem. There is a problem which is fundamental. And those in positions of leadership really must sit down and think, how are we going to ensure that our country, because we are losing our leadership position. I was looking at statistics in the mining sector, for example. Tanzania last year got $3.5 billion. Kenya just slightly over 700 million. If you look at tourism now, Serengeti is now receiving more visitors than the Mara. And all these things are happening. If you look at some of the mega projects that we thought would catapult this country into the orbit of economic sustainability, like LAPSET, they are really on comatose. These are the things that we should be talking about. And permit me in this regard, our elections is about 2.5 years away. We are on an electioneering gear. If I'm an investor, I am beginning to rethink. I would postpone my investment decisions until the year 2028, middle of it. 2 years after we were from the last election, we are already in an electioneering gear, which means that money is now being stolen from public coffers in anticipation of financing the next elections. Really, as a country, we owe ourselves a conversation, a serious conversation. And the beauty is that even churches, mosques, everybody is waking up. That is my joy. That people are now coming out, and when I see money being rejected, I'm elated. I'm elated. Because we are telling people, really, no, you can't dominate us by using money. You can't buy our souls. take the money to the birds.
You can't come to our pulpit at the church and use that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, if you were a student of behavioral sciences, the duality of personality that our politicians exhibit is something that is worth studying. It didn't start now. No. The cheering on one side and then switching mid-sentence. You needed to be at Kasarani or watching TV when we were about to do away with Section 2 when multipartyism was about to be ushered in. The conversations, I keep saying this so people can hear it. The conversations, it was Kasarani. Everybody who stood up spoke against multipartyism and praised the president and said what a wonderful person he is and said this will diminish the country. There's nothing that wasn't said. Leader after leader after leader. President Moi stood up and he acknowledged having what he had said, but he said, you know something, folks, time has come, I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
We do need to change.
Yes.
And we are going to introduce multipartyism. There was silence for something like 2 seconds. 1, 2. Then, wow! And everybody thereafter, the president is right. You know, I was watching, I was saying, God, what have I just witnessed? For me, it was a wake-up call. You see it today. It's like I will speak about things which are wrong so long as I'm not in government.
Yeah.
What prevents you from saying things which are not right, even if you're in government?
Nothing.
Do you think that when you're in government, you must sing the praises and you must say that things which are patently wrong, that because of that position, you must say that they're right? What is it that you think you're actually doing? Because whether you are in government or whether you are a politician who's been elected, you're there to serve people, not to serve yourself. So what exactly do these people whom we live with think they're doing? And what do they think our take on the things that they're doing is, as we watch and as we observe? And yet, amidst all this, the poverty in the country is not diminishing, it's increasing. The number of people who don't have jobs are increasing. The number of people who are entering the job market don't have jobs is increasing. Everything that could possibly put a strain on the economy is increasing.
Absolutely. And Professor PLO Lumumba is advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika, who tells us that we need political goodwill for us to be able to see the changes that we need, that the courts can even pronounce themselves and call for mediation for us to have an IEBC that is credible, that will deliver on that which Kenyans want, and that it is our role as Kenyans to equally demand that right is done by us. Asante sana Professor PLO Lumumba. But now is 7 a.m. Newswire with Leo Baga.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku says yesterday's meeting between President William Ruto and former President Uhuru Kenyatta will lead to the creation of a broad-based government. Ruku further says that this will be a strategy to ensure the return of national unity as well as strengthen the country's economy.
In the coming days, we want to have broad-based government, and I will not be surprised to see very strong supporters of Uhuru Kenyatta in previous campaigns coming to government, moving forward. So I think it's something in the right direction. We want a broad-based government. We want to unite all the corners of the Republic of Kenya. Kenya is one. We have one flag. We have one national anthem. We have one constitution. We have one map. So let all be one as a nation.
Embakasi North Member of Parliament James Gakuya, on his part, however, termed the meeting as hypocritical, further blaming Uhuru for failing to be in the defence of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who was ousted from government.
It is very hypocritical. And this is a clear statement that even in America, where there was an indication that there was a meeting between Lydiah, the former head of state, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and the current head of state, was real. And in this particular yesterday's visit, personally, I would take it as Uhuru and his failure to comment on Gachagwa's hammering during the purge was hypocritical. And actually, he knew this nation. And there was a big blessing for him, for where Lydiah today is positioning himself. And you cannot tell me, since Uhuru has never distanced himself from being the chairman of the Asmio fraternity, he told me he understands very well what Lydiah does, and they are in good communication. And let me tell you, one thing I would just say this morning is that
Gakuya father said that the visit will not change the stance of Mount Kenya region.
Their card is going to do to not flourish anywhere. Uhuru must remember, he tried to sell a candidate in Mlima Kenya, and it proved difficult because the decision is not an individual. The decision is to the entire region. And even today, there is nothing much he can change the minds of Mount Kenya region. Take it to bank. He's nothing. And he can't tilt anything at the position Mlima is today. And that's the correct position. And it is wrong. If the head of state did what he did, thinking that in fact he can use the former president to have an entry back to this mountain, unless on the head of state for just the purpose of what you call public relations, but not to win any vote from Mount Kenya region. This I will tell you, this will prove difficult and it will prove negative.
The UK government have imposed sanctions on British Kenyan businessman Kamlesh Patni and 4 others, including his wife and brother-in-law, of alleged involvement in the illicit gold trade. In a statement issued by the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the government announced that Patni's assets and those of his associates will be frozen as part of efforts to disrupt illicit financial flows. Patni, a controversial figure in Kenya's financial history, was central to the Golden Bag scandal, one of the country's largest corruption cases, which cost Kenya at least $600 million in the 1990s. A court has ordered the detention of a prime suspect in the murder of Sospita Osunga alias Okoh, the billionaire, for 14 days. This will be, among others, enable police to complete their murder probe into the incident that happened on November 18th in Kibra slums. Police based at DCI Kibra arrested one Brian Otieno Morris, the prime suspect in the murder of Okoh, the billionaire, on December 8th. He was presented in court where a magistrate granted the police 14 days to detain him for further investigations. The arrest followed a weeks-long probe following the murder of Kirinyaga University student. And finally, at least 110 mostly elderly people have been brutally murdered by gang members in the Haitian capital, according to a human rights group. The National Human Rights Defense Network said a local gang leader had targeted them after his son fell ill and subsequently died. The gang leader reportedly consulted a voodoo priest who blamed elderly locals practicing witchcraft for the boy's mystery illness. The United Nations said the number of people killed in Haiti so far this year is spiraling. Gang violence had reached a staggering 5,000 people. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Obaga.
And traffic in the CBD is piling up as we speak. As you access CBD from Mombasa Road, it is getting bumper to bumper by the minute around the Nairobi West area. It is busy as well as around Upper Hill, that is Capital Physiotherapy Wellness Center, is packed around community as well as getting busy by the moment. Around Landis Road, Railways Passage is equally busy, and along Waiakwe near Museum Hill roundabout is getting busy. And as you approach the CBD through the Uhuru Highway towards Haile Selassie roundabout is getting busy, as well as you go through that is Thika Road is busy by the moment around Kiambu Road. As you approach around Survey, it is Muthaiga Square roundabout is busy as you approach the CBD. Be careful and also just get to know the alternative routes that you should be using. But as we say, keep being safe on the roads. And you're listening to Spice FM, and this is the Situation Room. My name is Dennis Assad. We have CT Muga and our guest host Kevin Samuel as we continue to have discussions on conversations that are important in the country today. City, but as we keep on having these conversations now, imagine just having a peace of mind of having your money in a safe space with an individual who has been in the industry for over 110 years. City.
Yes. There is a term that Standard Chartered uses called a wealth select framework. What it does is introduces you to a very large and very diverse, an array of opportunities where you can actually enjoy investing your wealth. Now, why the choice? Well, the choice speaks to your need. Do you want your money in a month's time? Do you want it in 2 months' time? Do you want it in 3 months' time? Do you want something that guarantees you a return at a certain rate? Do you want... There are myriad of things that you will want to consider, but all of these things fit into the need that you have. And if the need changes, then that diversity again kicks in, because you are then able to look at what else is offered, or rather is on offer for you, depending on the need that you have at that particular point in time. Now that is Standard Chartered, always seeking to look into your welfare and providing a comfortable environment in which your money can grow, just as you also grow, in the safety and comfort of people who've been at this thing for over 100 years and who know exactly what it is that they're doing. Yes.
And yes, indeed, City. Now, that is all about knowing where to place your money, how to place it, how to use it, how to invest in it and get the returns that you deserve. And now in studio with me is George Wanyonyi from the program Lead Youth and Children National Gender and Equality Commission. Karibu sana, George. And Anna Katuki, who is Gender and Inclusion Advisor, Plan International Kenya. Welcome, Anna. And as we have this discussion on matters to do with 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, City, proverb of the week.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the kingdom of, is written Lesotho, not quite pronounced Lesotho. A person is a person because of other people.
Anna, what do you make of that?
Interesting. It sounds very African. Actually, if translated into either my local language or Swahili. But basically, I think from what City is saying is you cannot exist on your own. You need people to be able to pull up. You need people to be able to do other things together. Co-creation, collaboration for better results.
George.
Thank you. Interestingly, it takes me to the Ubuntu mantra. For me, an individual is as good as the social capital that they invest in, or that surrounds him, or that he proposes to get around him. So you're as good as those that are around you.
Yeah. And City, they've mentioned all about working together and others being pretty much your stepping stone for you to make it forward. And right here, as we speak today, we have an individual who goes out of their way to pick the best fruits, to ensure that you don't just have to eat these fruits, but to also drink them.
Actually, there is a company that has been doing this for a really long time. It's called Del Monte. You may have heard of it.
Yeah, true.
You've had it? Yeah. Have you consumed any of their products?
Del Monte?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
What was your preferred choice?
I always make a preference for the apple.
You like apple?
I like apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why apple?
Yeah, probably because I think growing up, you know, we were socialized to believe that the rarer things
are better.
were the better ones. Yeah, you would place a lot of premium in the rare ones. You know, like as we move towards Christmas, the things that you've not had throughout the years. I mean, throughout the year,
like chicken.
Suddenly you have it.
Like chapati.
Yeah, like chapati. Yeah.
What about you? What is your preferred?
Interesting myself. It's the mixture of all. I come from a place where we have extensive mango and other fruits. So for me to mix all of them so that I don't miss out on the benefits of all of them. So a lot of time I get to taste all of them in one.
And it is the season, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so why don't we just do the right thing and give you a mango and pineapple juice blend? And why don't I give you a pure apple juice?
Thank you.
Yes.
The apple, he says he loves it more
Now,
because they're rare.
if someone tells you Christmas doesn't come early, they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
It always comes early.
Very true.
And this is with gratitude from Del Monte. Yes, this is where real recognizes real. You see, you are real champions of rights. This is real fruit in liquid form. So real is now going to consume real.
Real recognizes
Thank you.
real.
Good combination over there.
You're right.
Yeah. And now, George and Anna, we are at we are observing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in the country, and this is coming at a very sad time for the country when we've seen cases of femicide cases increasing. Pretty much GBV cases in the country being reported on a single day. I just want you, Anna, to just paint a picture of how bad the situation is and where we are as a country.
Absolutely. I think as a country and even at as the region, we are at a place where it's coming to us that we need to have a conversation, a deep down conversation about emerging issues and some of them that have been sustained, especially gender-based violence, for a long time. When you look at our country, we have had growing and stringent economical spaces where we have livelihoods that have gone. We are coming against the backdrop of a pandemic that hit us out of the blue, and we had a lot of challenges that came out of that. And that built or propelled some of the things that were hidden, especially around gender-based violence, to levels that have become probably unmanageable, as it were. But it's not all doom, because as a country, we have had progress, I would say. We have a constitution that guarantees rights. We have acts, we have laws, we have policies, we have stipulations that guide in terms of preventing violence. One of the challenges that we are having now is because we don't have adequate justice when there are cases that are arising from gender-based violence and that kind of things. It's become extremely demanding because now we used to have gender-based violence in normal scenarios, which would call development scenarios, but now we have humanitarian and emergency cases that are now coming from the north to urban areas where we are, and these are exacerbating violence. And remember, gender-based violence is violence against men and women. This is violence that is affecting everyone in the society. It could be of any form. It could be, bodily, psychological, emotional. So we have had data from Kenya National, the KDHS, which is like 2 or 3 years ago now, which has given us statistics around what is happening. When you look at what the National Statistical Office is doing, is that they are giving us data that, there's still pressure on a large number of population, which again happens to be girls and women, which are hard hit by these scenarios. So when you talk about what is happening in the country, it's true. There's a picture that is coming up. Early this year, we started with a march against femicide, which is basically someone intentionally killing a girl or a woman just because they're a woman. It doesn't matter the reason behind it. And now we have had a conversation where it's getting to the highest level of the office in land, and they're putting money aside to be able to address femicide. So some of these things are not a conversation, I think, as a country where we are ranked, we should be having. So we are looking at a position where during this celebration, now we can be able to say, we've come here, we have data, we have numbers, we have statistics, we're investing in research. We need to be able to sit down and say, we need to put resources to be able to address the issues that are coming on. And moving forward, then we can have a story that is actually becoming better than what we are having now as a country.
And Kevin, this is an area where you deal with on a daily basis. I know why I'm saying that. So
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was very curious, Anna, as a follow-up. When you're talking about issues related to gender-based violence, gender-based sexual violence, you mentioned there being a lack of support within the justice system, right? And I've always seen it as there being two strands. One is the legal aspect, the law, and then the other one is the health aspect. Because if you get a victim of gender-based violence, you want to have them first be able to make a report and have that be taken seriously, but also there's likelihood that this person will need some kind of treatment, whether it's the physical treatment or psychosocial counseling. Could you talk a little bit about whether these two segments of our country, the legal side and the health side, work together when it comes to dealing with GBV, or whether they don't actually work together?
Sure. And I think before I talk about that, I want to mention that, like I said, the law of the land gives us as a country, most of the government of Kenya, the responsibility of providing information. So that is where you'll find this gap a lot, awareness and information. But true as it were, that there are several, or there are layers of processes that when a gender-based or sexual-based act happens that are followed. The first one, of course, is to be able to get a police place where you can be able to report. Before we go there, there will be either you told a family member, you told a friend, or such kind of thing. Anyone who gets to a police is someone who is probably courageous. So the numbers that we are missing are numbers that are not being reported. So there is a whole provision on how the police are expected to handle the matter. So they will tell you, you will report, will guide you not to do statement. They will tell you that when you come to report as a survivor, we call them survivors, they may not be able to remember immediately what happened. And I also want you to know that immediately you go through violence, whether a man or a woman, one thing that hits you is a shock. You may have been hit, you may have been abused, you may have been trolled. You can't sit and fathom that is actually you as an individual that has gone through such a thing. So the police or the security officers will be able to tell you, they will work with the survivor for a period of time. They will collect information, they will collect statement one time, they will collect from another time, as many times as possible, so that they can gather as much information as possible. Why is this important? If the police department goes to the court system and they do not have evidence, that case, what will happen? It will drop. So if it drops, what happens? The person who is in uniform is the most visible person. So everybody will say the police, our chances are, I may not have full information of composition of police and all that, but they will be the first one to be blamed. And all the time they're like, you're the one who failed us. They will be accused of a lot of things. So then the process of moving this with adequate evidence to the legal system is very important, and then that's where now they can be able to gather evidence and then have cases that have been addressed and gotten justice as quick as possible. One of the trauma that will be there is that some cases take a long time, and then this gives family like they don't have justice and those kind of things. But I also want to say systemically we have operational systems like what you call court users association. So this gives an opportunity for different partners to come together and be able to discuss matters on what is needed. So this is where we're able to get information in addition to what organizations are giving. So yes, they are working together. The gap is that collaboration. The gap is information to the public. How much do the public know, where they can go, at what stage, what is the waiting period?
And George, now, when we talk about matters to do with GBV in our societies, there is the aspect of regional factors contributing to the high cases and cultural factors and how they contribute to the same. So how do we deal with that as we on a daily basis push for this fight against GBV?
So thank you very much. And I wish to agree a lot with what my colleague Anna talks about. I want to take it from the National Gender and Equality Commission perspective, because for us as a commission, we are not direct implementers of projects and programs that touch on matters of gender equality. We provide regulatory oversight on matters of gender. And that, of course, definitely includes issues to do with GBV. And so, therefore, we provide an eagle's eye, as it were, when it comes to addressing matters to do with equality, and that basically revolves around GBV. So you talk about the social-cultural issues and how they impact on matters of gender-based violence. Critically, we observe that we have, as a country, taken quite some bit of step in terms of addressing issues of gender-based violence. But regrettably, of course, there are also, we have emerging issues, and she captures quite well the issues of femicide that have recently, reared its big head again to us. Social-cultural issues have been, we have tried to tackle, to address social-cultural issues as a country by trying to raise awareness, trying to send out public education in terms of, having the country discuss and understand why it is necessarily a good thing to try and create a gender-equal world. The positives for us in terms of public education and awareness, what we stress on is the fact that the country should necessarily appreciate that it is necessarily a good thing to create a gender-equal world. And so therefore that also means that in trying to address to address those kind of issues, the the socio-cultural issues obviously come in. Because for a long time, pateki and such other masculine issues have traditionally taken a big part when it comes to the functioning of our communities and societies. So more than or beyond addressing these issues legally would be a drive towards increasing the awareness within communities, within families, in individuals, to try and impact on these individuals, on these families, on these communities and these societies. That addressing the social-cultural issues that negatively impact on achieving a gender-equal world, and of course, therefore, addressing issues that address pertinent matters such as gender-based violence is necessarily a good thing. So yes, we approach it in a two-pronged manner. Legal enforcement, but also in terms of raising awareness, so that then an appreciation of the positivities the positives that would be derived from having a gender-equal world are
now 16
appreciated.
days of activism pretty much is therefore 16 days pretty much just speaking and addressing issues around GBV. What are some of the impacts that this period actually brings to this entire campaign, and some of the partners that you're working together with, say UN Women, in making sure that this matter is addressed, that this matter is highlighted, and that Kenyans, pretty much the whole world, understands the importance of fighting GBV?
Thank you. One of the main things that the 16 days of activism campaign raises is the importance of coordinated approaches towards the fight against gender-based violence. Coordination is one of our critical functions as a commission. And so therefore, it provides an opportunity for civil society. It also provides an opportunity for government and all these players to come back and reflect on some of the gains that the fight against gender-based violence has seen over the years. But it also provides an opportunity for us to, as a country, as a society, to reflect on emerging trends that have been seen recently, rearing their head again in the issues of gender-based violence. Anna talks about the technologically facilitated gender-based violence. And we have seen partners during this period of time share information on emerging trends, on issues of gender-based violence. Recently, a study by the CCGD, supported by, I think, UNFPA, in at least the tertiary institutions around Nairobi, indicated the critical issue of technologically facilitated gender-based violence. And so therefore this provides an opportunity, the period provides an opportunity for us to have a reflection on how to address some of these emerging issues, even as we address some of them of the critical matters that are coming up, including amendments to certain sections of the law.
Sections of the law. And yes, indeed. I wanted to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we continue going deeper into these as we seek to find solutions on such matters. But City, this is the holiday season. And as we get into the holiday seasons, you need to know where it is you're going to get gifts for your children, for your grandchildren, for your loved ones, pretty much. And Sarit this Christmas, Sarit, your city, is your ultimate festive destination, right?
Yes. Sarit is a household name. But one of the things that Sarit has done over time, beyond just being a place where you can go and shop and visit and consume what you call retail therapy. You
any kind of therapy.
There are people who enjoy shopping and there are people who enjoy window shopping. But of importance is how they partner with institutions, organizations to ensure that this Christmas season is actually beneficial to very many individuals who are in need and who may not be able to afford what other people can. Now, this isn't the first venture that Sarit Center is involved in. They've been doing this for the longest possible time. And the perspective has always been the same. Now, the partner that they have is a partner that I will talk to you about. As we go into the break, let's enjoy the break. Immediately after the break, I will now give you the details of who this partner is, what they do, and why it is that they are partnered with Sarit. Yes.
So, let's take a short commercial break. But when we come back now, we shall be joined by Sylvia Maina, who's the Gender Communication Specialist, UN Women East Africa and Southern Africa, as we continue to converse deeper on matters to do with 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in the country. See you after this break.
Of good vibes and great conversations. Tune in as we bring you the hottest tracks, innovative guests.
I do have strong opinions about that question.
And trendy discussions.
Is this thing real, Amma? It's part of your...
It's actually true. That will leave you inspired and entertained.
Yes! Don't miss out on the show that's all about you. The thinkers, the creators, and the doers.
Catch us every weekday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. on #AfterHours on Spice, where the vibes are always welcoming, the topics are always thought-provoking, and the energy is always inspiring. After Hours on SpiceFM, where ideas, music, and creativity collide.
This holiday season, feast, shop, and jingle all season at Sarit, your city. From November 28th to January 15th, 2025, Sarit transforms into your ultimate festive destination. Immerse yourself in the holiday spirit with breathtaking decor. Bring the kids to meet Santa, the Grinch, and Rudolph from December 1st to 25th, and enjoy live choirs serenading you every weekend until December 22nd. This Christmas, be the light. Join us for Africa's first ever Light the World giving machines, starting November 30th. Donate essentials like farm animals, food, and clothing to spread the joy of giving. Celebrate
the weather with Spice FM.
And weather in Nairobi is we are experiencing 25 degrees of highs and lows of 15 degrees. And in Kakamega County, we have highs of 30 degrees and lows of 15 degrees. And in Mombasa, we have highs of 31 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And as we talk about Malindi, that is highs of 31 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. Kisumu City, highs of 29 degrees and lows of 19 degrees. Now across the borders, into Kampala, Uganda, highs of 29 degrees and lows of 18 degrees. And in Congo, Kinshasa, highs of 32 degrees and lows of 24 degrees. And as we go to Dongcheng in China, highs of 6 degrees and lows of 1 degree. It shall be very cold in China and London. Finally, highs of 8 degrees and lows of 7 degrees.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
And traffic in Nairobi. Now we start with Thika Road, where around the KCA University, as you approach Muthaiga Square, is busy, and around the DCI headquarters as well is packed up. Now, as you go towards Karura Forest, it is busy, but as you proceed further down Limuru Road, it is getting lighter as the day progresses. Now, as you approach Nairobi from Mombasa Road, it is busy by the moment, and around Ngong Road as well, it is busy, especially around the Raila Odinga Ngong Road roundabout. There is busy and parked up bumper to bumper. That is the situations on the road today. Be sure to be careful as you use the road this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And good morning. Thank you for listening to the Situation Room and watching us as well. Remember that you're streaming live on SpiceFM and also on our YouTube channels as well. Talk to us there. We shall be sampling some of your views there. And CT, welcome. And now, CT, as we talk about matters to do during this Christmas holiday, a lot of people will be traveling from one destination to the other. And when you want to do that, you want to be in the most comfortable way that there is. And here is where Emirates comes in to make sure that you are comfortable. You can access all the beautiful and amazing amenities that come with traveling.
Actually, with Emirates, it goes beyond comfort. The Emirate business class actually takes the word business to a completely new level, because the journey doesn't begin when you board the plane. It begins before you board the plane. There is a limousine service that is provided for you to take you to the airport. When you decide to enter the plane, there is the welcome, and then there is the array of comfortable suggestions that await you. Do you wish to eat? Do you wish to have a drink? Do you wish to sit down? Do you wish to lie down? And when you're 40,000 feet above sea level, meaning you're up in the air,
and doing several nautical miles.
Yes, exactly. You are actually zooming through time. There is the option of either falling asleep or working. There is Wi-Fi that will be available to you. If you're a movie buff like myself, you'll be spoiled for choice. In fact, you'll wish you had a 20-hour journey, because you will sleep, wake up, watch a movie, have a meal. If you want to socialize, there's a comfortable lounge within the plane where you can sit, chit-chat with people. Now, when I say have a tipple, I'm not talking about just the ordinary drink. I'm talking about the best drink that you can possibly have. And did I mention lie down? I said yes, flat. And when you lie down flat, Emirates Business Class provides you with pajamas and a duvet. Duvet you leave, pajamas you can keep.
It's good that you clarified that.
And when you land at your destination, again, the same service that will take you to that destination that you had traveled for will be available. You will be taken care of in a manner that you've never experienced before. Unless, of course, you've already experienced it and you want a repeat performance. But for those who haven't, please consider it.
I actually flew Emirates, was in August of this year. I flew a bunch of airlines because I was in France, then I was in Kenya, and I was in Canada. And the one thing I remember was the amount, especially for movie buffs, the amount on offer to watch was incredible. it kind of ruined it for me for other airlines now, to be honest. I have to say.
Yeah. And that is what you get with Emirates when you are moving and just pretty much touring the globe. And as we now talk
By the
about...
way, before we talk, remember I did promise that I would talk to you about the partnership with the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the partner that Sarit have. And there's something called a giving machine, first giving machine. It's a giving machine. Now, what is this giving machine? It looks like a vending machine. It's on the second floor of Sarit. And just as when you go to a vending machine that offers you this food called crisps, you know it?
Yeah.
Crisps. And some chocolate and so forth. You have an opportunity to choose and you sort of like figure out how to. They have something similar, but on this one, because you want to give to people, you're talking about maize flour to goat. There is no goat in the vending machine. But when you choose goat, a prize will pop up and you'll know what it is you need to pay for it. You will then have donated that goat to someone. If it is maize flour, if it is a kettle, if it is a jiko, whatever else that is on offer, and you will see it, that is what you will have gifted someone. Yes.
So we should not expect to see goats wandering in Sarit Center?
If you do, then what we will need to do is have a talk with you on the first floor and perhaps give you something like water to drink
This is it.
as you determine how it is you're doing that day.
Okay.
Yes.
And how everything is at home.
Yes.
That is Sarit, your city. Just making sure that your Christmas is beautiful during this time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And in studio with me is Sylvia Maina, who's just joined us, who is the gender communication specialist, UN Women East and Southern Africa, equally together with George Wanyonyi, who's program lead, Youth and Children, National Gender and Equality Commission, as we talk about 16 days of activism against gender-based violence in the country. Kevin, you had something that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm curious, in terms of specific initiatives that, UN Women East and Southern Africa has implemented during the 16 days of activism, could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you in studio again.
Karibu.
Thanks for the warm welcome. So from UN Women, I actually am in the East and Southern Africa regional office. And there, one of the things that we are focusing very heavily on, just like the other offices across the world, is gender data and the power of gender data as one of 8 accelerators that we have for ensuring gender equality and women's empowerment. So as you're aware, the UN Women's mandate is really the UN agency or the global champion for girls and women's rights. And for us, our strong belief and ethos is that you can't change what you can't count or you can't quantify, which is why we're huge on gender data. So I'm currently mapped to a program known as Making Every Woman and Girl Count. So in short, we call that Women Count. That's the Gender Data and Statistics program. It's a global flagship program, and it has regional chapters. Yeah, and as well as some in the countries like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, some of our focus countries in East and Southern Africa, and we have similar, I think Senegal, I think Cameroon in West and Central Africa. I'm forgetting the other one. So really for us, when we invest in gender data, we're looking at really getting to the heart of some of the issues, because we want to influence and inform policies and decisions that will actually have an impact in changing the lives of women and girls. So it's not really just kind of piecemeal interventions of okay, here there's a problem, so let's send security forces there, but it's really to address it holistically and really understand through quality, standardized, reliable, and also very timely gender data that can pinpoint the pain points. Yeah, and based on that, then we are able to ensure that decisions are made based on actual situations on the ground, that the interventions are transformative, meaning they actually speak to the real issues on the ground. So over and above all the activities we've done through the 16 days, to answer your question, we've done a lot of media mobilization. That's part of creating awareness. But you'll notice all our awareness is data based. It's hinged on data. Like today we have an article in the Standard newspaper, and we've talked about data. I think it's on page 7. We've talked about data from, I think, 5 countries in the region. There's Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and I feel like we mentioned Ethiopia, but I could be forgetting. Yeah, but really it's just to show how these different countries are using this gender data to influence judicial systems. I heard you speak about it in the first half, to influence even how police and security agencies respond to some of these issues. On Saturday, we had a very interesting public baraza in Kawangware with some of our partners here, including National Gender Inequality Commission, represented by Paul Kuria at the time. He's the director for programs and research here. So he's George's colleague. We had my colleague there as well, who sits with the Eliminating Violence Against Women program. That's a thematic area under UN Women, just like gender data is a thematic area. We had very many representatives, including the inspector for police, right, which was really phenomenal, and civil society organizations. And I think we had marketed it as a 700 packs kind of event, and it was televised live on KTN. But we were so happy to really get the pulse on the ground, which is something we don't often get as a regional office. Typically, that's the purview of country offices, right, to engage at that level. But even through that conversation, we were really able to see the frustrations of the community, but again, just to share with them data and the interventions that we're doing. For example, I'll talk about Tanzania, where they've used gender data in partnership with UN Women to really influence how the security agencies respond to GBV cases. In Zanzibar, for example, it's very impressive, where they have the Office of the Chief Government Statistician, the OCGS, different from the National Statistical Office, which is on the mainland. And they have monthly media releases, is what they call them, where the National Statistical Office actually presents data on GBV specifically to the media and fields questions, and the media put them on the spot and ask, why has this number gone up in this region? And based on that, they're able to remain accountable. Based on that, they're also able to build awareness even in the communities. And of course, the media being such an important champion for even gender data and gender issues, they're able to really run and represent the public well. Yeah, so you find that based on those media releases, they've been able to actually set up one-stop centers in every single district in Zanzibar, which is so impressive. And we've seen a similar setup in Rwanda as well, where they have what are called the Isange one-stop centers. And Isange means feel at home. Yeah, and these kind of centers also serve as what do you call them, safe houses. Yeah, and they work very closely with the Rwanda Investigation Bureau. They call it RIB. So at that one-stop center, you'll find counselors, you'll find RIB who are able to take your dossier and forward it for judicial action. You find support from medics. Yeah, so these are just some of the interventions that we've helped to influence in different countries. In Kenya, for example, I'm very proud to say, and I think George can resonate with this, we have specialized GBV courts in some of the hotspot counties that have been identified, like Mombasa, Kisumu, Busia. Isn't it? Busia?
Yeah, there are 3 actually.
Yes, Meru as well has one. I think it was the first one to have SGBV courts. And we have similar in Uganda as well. But this is, of course, because of the backlog in the courts, and of course, denied justice. Delayed justice is denied, right? And GBV issues are very fast and hot. And if they're not addressed fast enough, we know that the end is really femicide. And I heard you speak about this in the first half. Yeah, so really those are just some of the interventions that we're doing, but everything that we're doing is really geared towards raising awareness, both among survivors and the general public, also bringing in men as champions. We have very many he for she's is what we call them.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Yes, which is really, I think, innovative. We've done some work on this with UNESCO as well. But really just to try and make it a whole of society issue rather than just a women's issue, which it is not.
Let me ask a question.
Yes,
when you say you want to make it a whole for society issue, and you have an understanding with the justice system, what about the alternative justice system? I ask this because it has a greater leaning towards societal norms because of the way it is structured, and it also helps. We're talking of data. activate a process within a community setting, and in so doing, the very principles that you're speaking of are then passed across or are then put across in a manner that would be a lot more acceptable to those who are supposed to interact with this particular service.
Indeed, and of course those resonate with our culture, right?
Yes.
The African culture.
Yes.
Which I know we feminists, and I must say feminist now has been used as an insult.
Yes.
Someone thinks by telling you feminist, it's like they've told you something, you know, and it's not a bad word. But that's something definitely that we've been asked about. About
so when you say that,
yes,
you say we feminists. So are you saying that you recognize yourself as you're also a you something?
No, I'm definitely a feminist, but it's not a bad word.
It's
Feminist
a positive word.
It is. Feminist just
it's
simply
descriptive
means
of a process that people began to ensure that certain things that had been misunderstood and misrepresented were understood.
Yes. Yes. And now it's been co-opted.
Yes, and
Exactly.
it can't be a one-stop determination. It's something that evolves and continues to evolve. Yes.
And men can and should be feminists. I must
Really?
say that. Yes. I keep saying I'm raising boys, teen boys, and I'm very keen on them understanding these issues. And I must say they actually get very aggrieved when I tell them data, like for example, in East and Southern Africa, for every dollar that a man earns for a particular job, a woman earns 81 cents for the exact same job with the exact same qualifications. And for them, they're Gen Zs. They do not understand what I'm saying when I tell them that. They're like, Mom, make it make sense. What are you saying? Why? Like this, and you know, that generation is very cut and dried, and they're very data and information driven.
Very much so.
Facts only, as they say. Facts. So,
but are facts always enough? You see, facts are good.
That's a good question.
Data is good, okay, but is it enough? Because I know this is this. I know this is this. Because the fact that the two of you have work that you're doing gives me the impression this work is on the increase. It's not decreasing.
It's not. You're very right, City.
So the question I want to ask is, these interventions that we are speaking of, what then is the impact? Because there is impact.
I think let me even as we run around that in terms of discussion, I think I want to get back to the alternative justice system issue. And just to mention that as the National Gender and Equality Commission, that is the direction we are supposed to be taking in terms of asking ourselves, because, you know, the moment we raise public education and awareness about what gender equality is, that it is not necessarily a women's issue, then many of these issues start, you know, coming out. For example, you know, the inclusion of males and boys in the discussion is a critical issue, because, like we correctly say, how the society has been structured, it becomes extremely difficult for gender equality matters to be discussed without the involvement of boys and without the involvement of men. Largely because most communities and societies are structured around gatekeeping by men, and so therefore, is
that a fixed position that cannot change?
It is not, and that is the discussion that we keep saying. Bring the discussion so that the boys are socialized early enough to understand this, so that the men are socialized into believing that it should be possible to change certain positions.
And necessary also.
George, let me ask a question. You see, when you are talking to full-grown men about change, African men, they will hear you, they will even attend your meetings. As to whether they will comply, completely different issue. Now let me take a few steps back. You're a mother of boys. Have you taught them to cook?
Hey, let me tell you, my boys can outcook me.
Precisely. If you had girls, it would even have been better. You know why?
True.
If you introduce children to the same chores, without telling them about equality, you have already introduced them to it. And you've introduced them to respect each other. Now, do we have a situation where we find that what you refer to as traditional roles, that societies that we work with are willing to introduce that form of equality from a very early age? That what the girls do, the boys also do. Not can do. The can, we understand, must do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, Steve, what you're bringing up is something very critical, because I'll give you my personal example, because that is what Mzee Aseto Senior introduced with me when young, because 4 boys, 1 girl. So we ended up actually doing majority of these things because we couldn't overburden the sister. And through that, even through life, like what a woman does, we must do, and not because we are men or because she's a girl, but because it is a responsibility for everybody.
And you've put it so well, because I think some of the things that people who are raising children of both sexes say is, if you're going to eat, then you need to also be able to cook. We can't all be eating, but only one person is capable of cooking.
Yes.
Yeah, make it make sense. If you need to eat, then you also need to know how the food gets to the table. And it's a difficult cultural shift, to be very honest. So I hear what you're saying, CT, and even on the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, including mediation. And of course, the courts do provide for that.
Yes,
even as they stand, they do provide for that. Even in the meeting that we had on Saturday in Kawangware, there were conversations by the police who really encouraged the community members to know their Nyumba Kumi leaders, even though later some of the participants told me that their own Nyumba Kumi leaders have been compromised. Yeah, so you find a girl is defiled next door by the neighbor, everybody knows who did this, but somehow the Nyumba Kumi person is given something under the table, and but it's interesting because this misogyny, there seems to be a growing rate of misogyny in Kenya, which I think is really worrying. And just yesterday I was reading a report by the BBC talking about this and how it seems to be one of the countries which has a very high spike in misogyny. And we've talked about this before in the previous shows here, how there's a high acceptance for GBV even among women in Kenya. Like if I burn the food, I expect a beating, and I'm like, yes, I deserved that. If I step out and go to my sister's house without asking permission, not informing, asking permission from my spouse or significant other, it's a cause to get a whooping, And these are some of the things that we really need to interrogate. And I think from conversations with young people and even looking at some of the YouTube comments from the previous shows, the argument is that we, feminists, and the Western world has come in and rubbished and upended our own culture. So, of course, mwacha mila ni mtumwa. So we are kind of readerless and rudderless. So that's why men are reacting and they're angry, because they're trying to take back their space. And
but this space that I hear it spoken, what is this space?
In fact, there's something I came across it after the last time we spoke, and I said I must say it today. It's just a meme that I came across that said, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Yes, it
and
does.
we've talked about in the previous shows how, if you have 10 lollipops and I only have 1, by me asking you to give me 4 so that we each have 5, you feel violated in some sense. Yet really, ideally, we should be balanced, because if you only promote one side of society, and women are more or less half across the world, so that's like basically running with one hand tied behind your back. How can we purport to develop? And that's why for us at the UN, gender equality and women empowerment had to be one of the sustainable development goals, right? Because you can't talk of sustainable development without equitably developing all of society. You need to look at the vulnerable. You need to look at persons with disabilities. You need to look at the poor. Obviously, that's why number 1 is number 2 is no poverty, right? So in the same way, gender equality and women's empowerment is really not a women's issue. It's not a feminist issue. If you look at traditional African culture, we respected women.
Right.
Actually, so even as we say it's our culture to subjugate women, it's not.
There were even cultures that were matriarchal.
Isn't it? Right? The Mombis and the rest.
That's true. Actually, the most, when you look at the African setting, the typical African setting, it was more divine to tend towards the underprivileged.
So well said.
Yeah, so that then you would be able to say that the first groups to be defended would have been the children particularly, and then you get the women, and then you get the persons with disability. Persons that are fairly underprivileged. I just wanted to get to look at what this discussion says at a higher level. And I'm telling myself, have we put in place frameworks that would ensure that, for example, the issues that you raised that were raised in Kawangware last weekend, the issues that touched on the judiciary, the issues that touched on the police, the issues that touched on other players, especially in government, what frameworks have we put in place so that to enable these groups to come together?
And George, as you talk about the frameworks that are put in place, I see someone called Sonnet is asking for data, and data actually is on page 7 of the Standard, and you talk about 42% of women and girls in the region experience physical and sexual violence, and now we have 32% of women marrying before the age of 18, and we talk about matters to do with 42% of women, 36% of men believe spousal violence is justifiable. So this is data that is available there, and it is a discussion that must continue, and we have to do everything within our spaces as individuals, as families, as parents, as spouses out there to ensure that gender-based violence becomes a key conversation piece for us to be able to say that during these 16 days of activism or on our day-to-day engagement with each other, that sexual and gender-based violence is something that is defeated, because honestly, the 21st century, these are not issues that we should be discussing, and we should not be having data that is going up. Instead, it should be go down.
The follow-up to that I have, which has to do with data, because we are
10 seconds as we
we're living more and more in a data-first world. Like, I would like to know some of the challenges you have in terms of trying to gather the data.
Yeah, I think with that we will share outside this, because now is news time. Leo Baga is in the studio.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Kutu Secretary General Francis Atwoli has commended President William Ruto and his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta for holding a consultative meeting. In a statement, Atwoli thanked Ruto and Uhuru for seeing the importance of holding a face-to-face meeting and discussing issues of national interest. Atwoli said the move by the two leaders to meet will help Kenya grow its economy, create more jobs and ensure stability that will attract direct investors. Meanwhile, Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku says yesterday's meeting between the President and Uhuru will lead to the creation of a broad-based government. Ruku further says that this will be a strategy to ensure the return of national unity and development.
In the coming days, we want to have broad-based government, and I will not be surprised to see very strong supporters of Uhuru Kenyatta in previous campaigns coming to government, moving forward. So I think it's something in the right direction. We want a broad-based government. We want to unite all the corners of the Republic of Kenya. Kenya is one. We have one flag. We have one national anthem. We have one constitution. We have one map. So let all be one as a nation.
Embakasi North MP James Gekuya on his part, however, termed the meeting as hypocritical, further blaming Uhuru for failing to be in the defense of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
It is very hypocritical, and this is a clear statement that even in America, where there was an indication that there was a meeting between Lydiah, the former head of state Uhuru Kenyatta, and the current head of state, was real. And in this particular yesterday's visit, personally, I would take it as Uhuru and his failure to comment on Gachagua's hammering during the purge was hypocritical. And actually he knew this nation, and there was a big blessing for him for where Lydiah today he's positioning himself. And you cannot tell me, since Uhuru has never distanced himself from being the chairman of the Asmio fraternity, he told me he understands very well what Lydiah does, and they are in good communication.
Gekuya further said that the visit will not change the stance of Mount Kenya people.
Their card is going to do to not flourish anywhere. Uhuru must remember, he tried to sell a candidate in Mlima Kenya, and it proved difficult because the decision is not an individual. The decision is to the entire region. And even today, there is nothing much he can change the minds of Mount Kenya region. Take it to bank. He's nothing. And he can't tilt anything at the position Mlima is today. And that's the correct position. And it is wrong. If the head of state did what he did, thinking that in fact he can use the former president to have an entry back to this mountain, unless what the head of state, for just the purpose of what you call public relations, but not to win any vote from Mount Kenya region. This, I will tell you, this will prove difficult and it will prove negative.
Yesterday, President Ruto visited Uhuru at his home in Gatundu village, Kiambu County, where they discussed various issues. Ruto, in a statement issued shortly after the meeting, thanked Kenyatta for his continued commitment to being a leader in bringing national peace. Top security officials flew to Mandera and Wajir counties to bolster an ongoing operation to tame Al-Shabaab activities following the killing of a police officer on Monday. The team, led by Deputy Inspector General of Administration, Police Service Gilbert Masengeli, and Director of Directorate of Criminal Investigations Mohammed Amin, flew to the area to push the teams on the ground to hunt a gang that had earlier killed the DCI driver in Lafi area, Mandera County. Their visit came ahead of a planned visit by President William Ruto to Wajir town to grace an event today. The officers visited the scene of the attack of the officer and addressed a team involved in operations. And finally, Kenya police and their Haitian counterparts mounted operations in parts of Port-au-Prince as gang violence escalated at the weekend alone, leaving close to 200 people dead. The team under the Multinational Security Support Mission said they recaptured a second police station in the area, and close to 200 people were killed in brutal weekend violence in Haiti's capital, the United Nations said, with reports that a gang boss orchestrated the slaughter of voodoo practitioners. The killings were overseen by a powerful gang leader convinced that his son's illness was caused by followers of the religion, according to Civil Organization and Committee for Peace and Development. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Wherever it is you are trying to access the Nairobi CBD. Now, when we talk about Mombasa Road, it is piling up by the moment, especially around Capital Centre. It is getting busy by the moment. Now, we go to Thika Road, where around Muthaiga Square, it is busy, especially around Kenya School of Monetary Studies, KCA University. Muthaiga Square is packed up. Around Pangani area is also packed up, but towards the CBD, Murang'a Road is flowing swiftly. Now, when we talk about around Spring Valley, it is parked up as you approach Nairobi CBD towards the National Museum. However, is flowing swiftly now around Ngong Road, especially around the Ngong Road roundabout near the Nairobi Funeral Home. It is packed up from all directions as you approach the CBD. Be sure to be careful and let's be safe on the roads. And welcome to the Situation Room. My name is Dennis Aseto, in studio CT Muga, and our guest host today, Kevin Samuel, as we talk about matters pertinent to this country. And now, CT, when we talk about matters to do with the youth now, unemployment continues to be a concern for this country, for the government, pretty much for even parents out there. But KCB is here to give us solutions to that. Ain't that right, CT?
Yes, they do. They do. KCB has understood that there is this huge gap between those who want jobs and those who can do jobs, and those who say they are able to do jobs, and those who actually have certification to prove that they can actually do jobs. Meaning, there are many who are not fit for purpose. They exist. They've been doing certain things. Now, KCB has a program to Jiajiri. What they're doing is very simple. You have a skill. They up that skill. But they don't just up the skill. They ensure that when that skill is upped, you are in a position to actually put to practice what it is you've studied. They're in partnership with an organization called Bosch. Now, these fellows make some of the best equipment you can ever come across on the planet. So they will ensure you actually have the equipment you need for this work. They don't stop there. If you need financing to be able to operationalize what it is that you have studied, they also provide you and work with you to ensure that those projects actually work. Meaning, this is now a trusted partner. People who have determined that they must see to it that whatever it is that you started on actually works and actually benefits you. Now that is the 2G Ajiri program by KCB.
Yes. And in studio with us right now is former Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter. Good morning, Alfred. Siku nyingi sana.
Good morning. It is almost a year since I was here with City and Eric and the rest.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, welcome back. That is the hot seat. Today will make it cooler. But City, before Alfred makes it cooler, the proverb of the week.
Well, the proverb for the whole of this week come from the kingdom of Lesotho, otherwise pronounced as Lesotho. Yes. Formerly, I keep saying this, formerly known as Basuto land. Man, the names that people have, God almighty. A person is a person because of other people.
Alfred.
Yeah.
What does that
mean? Is what defines you. It's not about yourself. It's about the others, how they see you.
That is what defines you. And City, because that is, it's about the others, that is what defines you. There is a partner that is out here to make sure that we can also drink our fruits, not just eat them.
Actually, this thing about sharing is not just about giving me your opinion on subjects that you think are pertinent to me, but it's also about eating. In fact, we socialize best as human beings when we're having a meal. And we're having a drink, or we are eating a fruit. Now, imagine people who have determined that the fruit mustn't only be eaten, it must also be drunk. That is where Del Monte comes in. And they take the time and bother to specifically choose the fruit that will then become the juice that you buy. Now, Mheshimiwa, I have something here called lychee. It's a fruit. And I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you.
Lychee.
But in case, you see, this is what happens when you pronounce things wrongly. What I have is actually peach, not lychee. So, if you're expecting lychee, erase that one. Now, take peach.
But lychee is also one of the products that Del Monte has.
Lychee is one of the products. In fact, almost every fruit that you know of in this country is actually produced by Del Monte. And it has no added sugars, no colors, no preservative. It is as is. So please, instead of eating your fruit, please drink this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the gift.
Yes.
This is for the early Christmas.
Christmas comes.
You are a man who understands these things well. Yes.
Thank you.
It is early Christmas.
Yeah. Now, Mheshimiwa, it is 1 year since we had a discussion right here on the Situation Room. And a lot has happened during that 1 year. We just want to take stock of 2024 and the politics, the political year in review of how it has been in this country. We've seen a lot. we talk about the demonstrations that we witnessed in this country, the broad-based government, and now we have the impeachment of a former deputy president, and a lot more that is happening, including yesterday's handshake, as people want to call it, between the former president and President William Ruto. Just how has the year been, politically speaking?
Yeah, it is very interesting because if you remember, City, and if you watch even that clip when I was here, we discussed these issues. I saw and we talked about Parliament getting to a state of a collapse in terms of it is captured, which those are some of the issues we discussed. If you remember, I actually told you Parliament has been captured. And you've seen with the recent issues coming, like the protest, the controversial Finance Bill 2024. Members of Parliament, most of them, were not supportive to the punitive taxation measures they were advocating for in Parliament. And if you want to prove me right or wrong, you must remember when the Gen Zs protested, these same members of Parliament went to State House when the president wanted to now refuse to ascend the law, which was a product of Parliament.
Yeah.
And the majority, those who supported it in Parliament and even celebrated in Parliament after the pass of that controversial bill, when youths and many other Kenyans were agitated, we spoke about those issues here. Then, when the president refused to ascend their own law, their own child, they celebrated and they was very excited. People were like shocked. What's happening? So this is a parliament that is captured. Most of those members of parliament don't engage in an objective manner. It's no longer about what they believe in. It's no longer about what is right for this country. It's all about the patronage by the executive, which are in control of parliament. These are parliament who did not elect their leaders. The committees in parliament normally should elect their leaders. But the leaders were coronated from State House and then they were endorsed in Parliament. And these are people who are meant to oversight the executive, to oversight the state organs. They are actually the bosses of the executive. They should act in a manner, in an objective manner, so that they protect the public interest. And that is the reason why the political class have lost confidence. Because young Kenyans, including everyone, have realized that we don't have a parliament. At the moment, judiciary is getting to levels of being compromised on some issues. If you saw how they handled even the replacement of Rigathi Gachagua. Most of the issues with the current deputy president, including an IEBC who gave a clearance, even himself, 2 days ago, he mentioned that the reason why we don't have an IEBC is because there are court cases. So he's admitting that there is no IEBC. So in the event there is no IEBC, who gave a clearance to the deputy president? So what I'm saying in short, the very many issues which have come to play in the political environment this year are clear indication that we've lost a parliament. The confidence in that parliament is already gone. And we actually lost it, when the Gen Zs went to parliament during the violence, the protest, which many youths died. They were killed by the brutality by the police. We lost about 60 of them. But very many who are abducted and missing, including even myself, I was abducted by which is a sorry state of affairs.
City.
Because on a Sunday, you wake up and go to church and you're driving yourself with your kids and family. Then after the church service, the police officers who are not on uniform, because I later on realized they were from DCI. They are coming with a cab with a civilian number plate. Themselves have civilian clothes with no identification at all, with masks on, and then they abduct you without even giving reasons. I saw the President of the Republic of Kenya trying to defend it the same day, because when I was abducted, the same day he was addressing the maybe State of the Nation address or something. No, it was, I think he was addressing to the media. And he spoke about that Alfred Keter refused to honor summons. There were no summons. I was never summoned. And even after I went there were no charges which was preferred against me. I was never taken to any court. All they said is that there are allegations that you're bringing guns from Congo, which they could not prove because in any case, I've never been to Congo. I've never crossed the border to Congo. The places I've been to, they know because I've gone through immigration.
Immigration, yes.
And you see, it is ridiculous. How do you abduct someone in the name of your arresting in the presence of their kids? You know, they were traumatized. My children, even as you speak, they have never come out of it. It's not an easy issue. And remember, just the other day I was trying to go to Australia because the Kenyans in Australia invited me. I have supported so many Kenyans who are learning and having making a living in Australia. So they had invited me for Christmas together with my family. Do you know I was denied a visa on the basis of you are accused of bringing guns in Congo? So it affects our lives more than, and I've already told you how my children are still traumatized.
And that is the story of many other Kenyans out there
who are abducted
in this country today. City.
You know, the thing about being in the information age is it is very, very easy to understand what's happening elsewhere. And because of that, it's also very easy to compare. The term disappearing people, it started in Latin America. There were cases in Argentina, there were cases in Chile. Presidents who decided that anyone who they did not like or who opposed them, they would abduct, detain, and many were forgotten. Recently, Syria had a moment when their president was no longer in power. Circumstances that they could never have foreseen. The greatest supporter had been Russia. Russia have their own problems. Russia was not able to come to their aid.
Iran as well.
All these countries that may have supported them have their own issues currently. So they cannot give a helping hand. What is certain, there are things that when people do, you get the impression that they think that they will never leave the positions that they have, or that power will never come to an end. And it all does. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter. So long as you're a human being, we are designed to expire at a certain point in time. That's how we are. Our sell-by date is guaranteed. It's the only thing, in fact, you have as a guarantee when you're alive. I don't know what it is that happens when people get power, because they become impatient. They don't want to hear anything that is contrary to their thinking. And they don't want to understand that when people oppose you, it's not that they don't like you. They're disagreeing with what you're doing. And that it's not personal. They're disagreeing. They're saying what you're doing is not right, and they're probably giving you reason. It is unfortunate that when we claim to be in a democracy, and this is what you see continuously, then it tells you that this democracy that we fought for is a democracy that we must continue fighting for. It's not as though we sit back and relax that we now have it. Because when you have a democracy, it is clear that there are always individuals who want to roll back time. There are always individuals who want to ensure that those hard-won victories are watered down, because their interests will go against the very democracy that we are speaking of. So the only way you work is when you diminish or water down these things. But they always come to an end. I like giving the example of Chile. I like giving the example of Argentina. Many people who were involved, and there were security forces in the abduction of citizens. 50 years down the line, not 10, not 20, 50. They're now being brought to book. You are a great-grandfather, you are a grandfather. Your family has no clue that that's what you did when you were young. But the records are there, and now you're being asked to say, excuse me, this is what you're involved in.
And you know, City, I support that. You know, most of these things that people do, it affects generations and generations and generations to come.
So true.
That's why nobody will forget it. It can even happen after 100 years, after 200 years. You see, like, at the moment, we have a government which is forgetting for youths to leave this country to other countries. You know, but the circumstances that they will face in those countries, and then the separation of these young families. You know, you have female and male, and some are married, some are dating. You have one to go to Saudi Arabia, another one goes to Dubai or in London or whatever. These are families which you've already separated. And again, even if they were to start their young family and say, let's move to Saudi Arabia, the schools in there, they cannot afford. The life, the cost of living there. So they are forced to remain here. We are messing up with the generation. We are killing the future of our youths by all this, what you're doing. And there is no country in the world other than Kenya, which is advocating for the young people to go abroad. You know, most nations focus on their individuals and the citizens, the population, to focus in building their nations, not to move individuals. Because when you go, it will benefit you as an individual to some extent because you are earning a living. But you see, 80% of whatever you do will benefit that country you are in. You're building that nation. And it is also sad that most of these embassies that we have in this country, majority of them, especially the European embassies, are run by our own resources. Did you know that? American embassy, out of what they collect for those who are making applications for visas, is enough or more than enough to run the embassy. I think they remit some money to the US. So we are supporting the embassies. While we are a third world country, our embassy in New York or Washington, D.C., we are paying through our hard-earned cash here in Kenya to support. I've told you and I've demonstrated how Australian embassy denied me a visa. It means they work with this government.
That's what
and they actually benefit. You see, they even asked me these questions, and I used a lawyer to prepare an affidavit, which I sent to them. But they could not believe my story because this is something that most of these embassies have no interest of the public. Their interest is to protect whoever is in power. The same case as the American ambassador. That's why Kenyans were agitated for her to resign. Most of these embassies are protecting the interest of those who are sabotaging our economy, those who are misleading us in terms of investments. You look at this case of Adani. Some of us were accused before even you get to that point of asking what happened or transpired with the Australian issue. These Adani issues we raised over a year. People started raising in April, June, July, when it was started. You know, it was a rumor that they want PPP. And then they mentioned Anema Adani. Then it went. Then it came back. Only for the guy, Maina, to the whistleblower, to give us more information together with Senator Wanyonga. We've been talking about it for months. During the protest, this is one of the issues people were saying, no, we can't let our airport go. If you remember, there were youths. There is a young man who has been helped by so many to be taken back to school. Who actually spoke about it when they were coming, marching towards they were moving through this highway, Mombasa Road, towards the JKIA. And they were saying, we cannot allow Adani. And then issues came of Bangladesh, Pakistan, in India, in Europe, and now the US. The president cancelled because of the US. What does that tell you? And imagine, this is a government where the CS, the cabinet secretary in charge of energy, Okoh and I, goes to parliament to go say it will continue. Whatever happened in the US. Meaning, even themselves, you know, when bad governance comes to your way, you even fail to lead on very basic issues that you should understand. The cabinet secretary should have come with information to say, with the new, fresh information coming, allow us as a government to relook into this Adani issue, then we'll get back. It would have stopped there. Only for the president to come and cancel in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, the president later on, when he was in Mombasa, he was accusing, I don't know who, of cancelling the same Adani days. He's the one who did it during the State of the Nation address. Like the same case as these contributions and the fundraisings in charge by state officers. He's the one who gave a policy to say, you understand?
Yeah.
And then he was accusing, these people want to refuse to stop us from donating in church. They are the ones who created that policy.
And you see, Alfred, you raise a very critical question in terms of when Kenyans were speaking pretty much about the Adani saga, the discomfort that Kenyans felt on how the country is being led. All that Kenyans were raising is we want a government that listens to us, which begs the question, do we have a government or a political class that is actually listening to the people that put them to power? But let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we dive deeper into, do we have a listening government? The finance bill that was there, did Kenyans speak about it? And also in terms of the abductions that are happening in the country, what do we have to say about it, including the IEBC? That after this break. And it is highs of 25 degrees in Nairobi and lows of 15 degrees. Now Kakamega County, highs of 30 degrees and lows of 15 degrees. Now Mombasa, Kenya, 31 degrees highs and lows of 25 degrees. And we go to Kisumu City, highs of 29 degrees and lows of 19 degrees. Pretty hot in Kisumu and in Malindi. That is Kilifi County, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. And in Nyeri County, highs of 24 degrees and lows of 12 degrees. Now we go to Lagos, Nigeria, where we have highs of 34 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. Pretty hot in Lagos, Nigeria as well. And in Johannesburg, South Africa, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 18 degrees. And Dar es Salaam, highs of 31 degrees and lows of 25 degrees. In Paris, France, now that is 6 degrees highs and lows of 5 degrees. Pretty cold in Paris. Situation on the road across Nairobi now, it is pretty busy, especially around Thika Road as you're approaching the CBD. Around Muthaiga has been busy the whole morning today, and as you come towards the National Museum of Kenya, it is busy as well. Now, if you go towards Atlantis Road, as you get towards the CBD, towards as well as Railways Roundabout, it is busy, and Mombasa Road as well, it is packed as you get towards the CBD, and Ngong Road as well around the Nairobi Funeral Home. That is the junction of Raila Odinga, and Ngong Road is equally busy, and the bypasses as well. Traffic is moving swift and smooth. Be sure to talk to us. We shall be highlighting how the roads are, but in whatever else that you do, be sure to be careful and safe on the roads. And welcome to the Situation Room. Dennis Aseto here with CT Muga and our guest host, that is Kevin Samuel, and our host this morning, former Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter. But CT, now we have millions of Kenyans who get into the job market every year, and as we get into that now, KCB is here to make sure that all these workflow, all these resources that the country has is actually sorted.
Well, the GBV program actually looks into that. And it's actually a very well thought out program, because it looks at what somebody has had an interest in. It looks at the viability of that particular service and the need that comes with it. And the word empowering comes to mind, but it's overused, this word. So they skill you and tool you, so that you are actually able to not eke a living, earn a living. And that you can actually make that business grow. And the only way the business grows is, one, you already have the means in terms of the technical know-how, the equipment that you may need to start off with, and a little helping hand financially to jumpstart the process. Now, that's the 2G Ajiri program. Yes.
Yeah.
And it actually works.
Yes.
It isn't one of these programs that is mentioned for the sake of mentioning that somebody's involved in CSR. It actually
works.
Yes.
And as well, City, now, Alfred Keter has mentioned about wanting to travel outside, but as you plan to travel, we still hope that you'll travel. There is an airline out there that is sure to give you that service, from limousine rides to an amazing lounge to the drink that you want. But City, just paint the picture. Let us feel how
Alfred,
this is.
The other countries to go to. You don't necessarily have to go to Australia. As a Kenyan will tell you, wakae na hiyo visa yao. But the point is this. Emirates tells you this. From Nairobi, you have a choice of 140 destinations. And Emirates business class offers you something that is not only unique, but something that will take your breath away. When you are on that flight, you have the choice of meals that are regionally inspired. You may think that on a flight to wherever it is you're going, you may not be able to eat something that is local. Actually, you can. And when you eat, it isn't as though you're going to be served on some plastic cutlery. China. And when it comes to drink, you decide. Literally. And when you decide, you'll realize that what you're drinking is premium. If you want to rest, you can sit if you so wish. Again, it's comfortable. If you want to lie down, you can recline the seat. Better still, if you actually want to fall asleep, you can lie flat. They'll provide you with pajamas, which you can keep. Duvet, which you must leave. Okay? When you wake up and you want to work, there is Wi-Fi. If you've worked and you are on these 20-hour flights, 10-hour flights, if you don't want to work, you can watch a movie, and the channels will blow your mind. There are really very many. In fact, you'll be spoiled for choice. When you land, the same attention to detail that took you to the airport is the same attention to detail that will meet you to take you to your destination. And that is Emirates Business Class.
Thank you.
Alfred,
100%.
140 destination. The choice is yours.
Yeah, thank
Plus
you.
or minus Australia.
Yes.
But that issue of Australia, we need to address as a nation, even the ambassador, whoever is listening to me from that embassy. It is wrong to deny people on the basis of accusations, which are meant to, because the government is trying to punish the critics.
Can I ask a question? Do you know the reason why they denied you the visa? Did they tell you?
They said you have issues. They raised these issues
Based on the suspicions that were raised. No proof of it.
No proof. So I wrote an affidavit.
They actually told you.
Yeah, they told me
that these issues were
which was good.
Yes.
They emailed me.
Yes.
And then I engaged a lawyer. We did an affidavit.
Yes.
To Australian Embassy. And I want them to listen. Some of us, we are victims of these governments which are against their critics. We've seen many critics who are abducted. Myself, I was abducted. I was never arrested. And there is nothing, no case which was preferred against me in any court of law. Because there were just accusations to taint my name, to terrify my family, to traumatize my children, so that they want to say, Dad, you have to stop.
That's it.
That is their intention.
Yeah.
It's actually to stop the critics from raising issues.
That's really
but when we stop, and if we were to stop, because I'm not going to stop. I want to inform DCI and the president and Kenya Kwanza, wherever you are, there is no amount of intimidation that is going to stop Alfred Keter from speaking the truth. Because if we were to stop, we will lose the airport. We will lose many other national strategic assets. You wanted to sell KICC. You are planning to sell Kenya Seed. You are planning to sell a new KCC. All these strategic assets. All we are saying, we are not criticizing you based on whatever you have raised. We've seen they were trying to start a narrative that to portray those who are raising issues are not raising because they are issues. They are raising because they don't love their country. Atesio was Alendo. Really, between me, who is saying don't sell the airport, between me, who is saying stop this overtaxing Kenyans, allow Kenyans to raise capital for the economy to grow, to boost the economy, between me and those who are busy stealing, we are losing 2 billion. Even according to the president's word, we are losing 2 billion every day, including today. This Tuesday, we will lose 2 billion. Because they cannot stop it. And the revenues that they tried to raise, I saw less than 2 weeks ago, they are below target by about 40 billion. You know, they can't meet their expectations of raising revenues. You know, they have a lot of, they've set standards high. But what they are doing is basically killing the industries. Companies are closing down. So between me, who is saying we should not allow the collapse of our economy, we should not allow the young people to go out desperately to work in environments which are pathetic, which are bad situations like what we've seen in Saudi Arabia, where some Kenyans are told to clean snakes. They're bathing snakes.
And Alfred, you raised something that is critical in terms of patriotism in this country. And when we talk about patriotism, our role as Kenyans in putting the leaders that is there in check is critical in terms of even dissenting voices being allowed to raise their issues and be heard, and with the hope that the government that there is listens to them and makes right that is not. CT, from where it is you sit in terms of just having a government that is listening, is that something that we can say the government listens to CT?
It's not me they should be listening to. They should be listening to the voices of the citizenry. That voice was supposed to have been represented by the members of parliament, and we have a problem there. This subject of sovereignty and this subject of the sovereign being as the citizenry is something that I think hasn't quite sunk yet. We talk about it, but as a citizenry, we don't actually believe we're the sovereign. We believe that our servants whom we have elected to work for us are the sovereign. And as long as that is the belief, then we will have a problem. There's a subject that Mheshimiwa touched on with regards to the American embassy, and then he touched on Saudi. You see, the people leave the country because they feel there are better prospects elsewhere.
Outside, yeah.
And many countries in the West, because they have declining populations, invite young people to actually go to those countries. There are countries like Philippines and some like India who have an understanding with some of these countries where their citizens go to, and the understanding helps look after the welfare of these individuals. But it's a subtle point here. The US of A has been a place that many people have wanted to go to.
Right.
And if I'm to take what you said about the money they raise, it's because people want to go, and if you go, you pay for the visa. They choose to go, and they choose to pay. And what they charge is actually their prerogative. What I have found, though, over time is embassies look after the interest of their nations. I would be slow to blame the embassy. They have a foreign ministry whom they answer to, and they are given instructions. They represent the country, but they're given instructions. They are told what it is that they should do and how they should go about it. They're not free agents who can just decide to do what it is that they've woken up in the morning and they feel they want to do. And again, they are not here to look after our interests. Not really. They're here to look after the interests of their countries.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is the primary thing that they are there to do. Now, I feel that when we have a leadership or a people who we say are in leadership, but they don't prioritize looking after the interests of their people, then we have a problem.
You know, City, I agree with you. There is an issue to do with what I'm concerned is that the applicants are out of 100%. 95% fail to get the visas. It's only 5%, which is a small number. But these 95% are all paid.
Of course.
And they don't reimburse the money.
Yeah.
So what I'm raising is that if you were to do calculations in terms of how much the American embassy is raising, and consider how much they're using to run their embassy, you will realize that we are the ones running the embassy.
Actually paying for it.
We are paying for it. Well, that is not the case in all our embassies. And for your information, most of our embassies are about to collapse. Some have failed to pay rent. They are not paying their staff. Most of the consulates and the ambassadors, most of them don't get their allowances.
You're talking about the Kenyan embassy?
The Kenyan embassy is abroad.
He is exactly right.
There was a moment a few years ago where there were pictures of the embassy in Washington, D.C., and it was shocking. It was dilapidated. There was chunks falling off the wall. And this is in Washington, D.C. This is our prime embassy in the U.S. And the questions were, what's happening? How is it that we're represented by this dilapidated building?
You know, the question is mismanagement of resources. The regime that we have, the Kenya Kwanza, they're only concerned when it is benefiting them, when it is their interest at stake. It's not about the national interest. When you see this Adani, they're getting mad about it. It's nothing about they want to... In fact, we have information. They are the ones who are sabotaging that airport. It is leaking through. But they exaggerated the leakage for it to show that
we needed
it. So that every Kenyan will say, this thing is embarrassing. We need to do something. So that we become desperate to fall into their trap. We are not refusing the rehabilitation or the building of a new airport. All we are saying, we are against the process. It has to be transparent. It has to be above board. Let it be subjected to public participation. Let it be a competitive process. Adani is not the only billionaire in the whole world. We have so many billionaires with no questionable backgrounds. Why don't we subject it to a competitive process so that we can have a strategic partner who can help us to achieve whatever we want to achieve and let them do business with it if they were to do business with it.
You're actually spot on, because if you were to look at people who've done what it is that Adani wanted to do, and if you throw that even to the projects that we had created a partnership even with Catraco. Wouldn't you look at somebody who has done a lot more work?
You naturally.
In more places and with a greater diversity.
Look at the Qatar Airways. the airline. They are building a new airport in Rwanda with lesser cost than what Adani is proposing. Because what is happening with that Adani proposal is just a scandal. People want to make money here, and Adani wants to take advantage of compromising our people to also make more money. Because that is what he's doing in Bangladesh, that's what he's doing in India, that's what he was supposedly and allegedly to do in the US. So we should have, like what CTA said, we have a social contract between the people to govern us and ourselves, which they are to do it in our interest. The sovereignty remains with the people. The representatives who are in parliament are doing it because we allow them by law. And the people have a say. We are the law, we make decisions. That's why public participation is key in the constitutional dispensation. What I want to say, because of the time and everything, is that we have failed as a nation. We don't have leaders who have our interest at heart. What we have are people who want to make a big kill out of it. They want to be billionaires. They want to make a lot of money. They're investing abroad. They have no whatsoever interest with the public. Look at it. This Kenya Kwanza was formed on the basis of they wanted to uplift the standards of the less fortunate in the society. Those mamambogas, the boda-bodas, the Juakali sector, the women with single mothers, and many challenges. But when you see their punitive taxation measures are to support them more. Today when I was coming from Lavington, you get thousands of people who come from Kawangware, and they are trekking all the way to industrial area. Some of them are seeking jobs, they don't have jobs. They come and make queues in factories, whether they will be allowed. And you see, most factories in Kenya are closing down. Some are laying off employees. So nobody is employing. And the reason why I've even said, I've seen the president mention many things. And one of the accusations which was made by the Kenyan, Conference of Bishops, they spoke about lies. When you see a president telling us that Kibera in 10 years will be like a Lavington. Kibera, you can't address it like it is just an housing problem. It's all complex. It's about the cost of living. It's about the source of income.
Kibera is an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem. So you cannot address it like people who live in Kibera is because they lack houses in Lavington to live in. They cannot sustain their lives if they were to be in Lavington. They can't pay bills for electricity. Everything in most of the things which are happening in those slum dwelling are illegal activities, including in power connections. Things are free. Even illegal water connections, which are cheap, and you understand. And they are in dilapidated sanitation, which you don't call it decent. What I'm saying, you cannot transform this country on the basis of lies, but on the basis of realities. The question we should be asking ourselves, can you create jobs here so that people have employment and have source of income to be in better housing structures? You cannot move that someone in Mukuru Kayaba to Buruburu or Komaroks or somewhere in Kileleshwa or he goes to Runda just because there is a Fakan house in Runda. No, they will not even sustain their lives there. So the question should be, what are we going to do to create jobs? And you see, as Alfred Ketera have always said, what we lack in this country are people who are driven by the public agenda. That is what we lack.
We have people who are driven by personal agenda. Kevin?
Yes. Oh, there were so many questions, but I think for me, the one thing that has just been in my mind since you've been here, especially when you talk about that situation with the abduction, with your family in full view, I was just wondering, was there any recourse that you tried to follow? Anything that you tried to file formally? Were you given any sort of forum to talk about what happened to get some answers?
Do you know when I was abducted, I didn't know they were DCIs. I realized they were DCIs when I was taken to DCI headquarters. And I was actually shocked. You mean these are police officers in uniform? You should be
in plain clothes.
In plain clothes. No identification, nothing. All they had is guns. Which criminal gangsters can be having?
Yeah.
Right. How can you identify police in the name of they have guns? And that is the reason why I saw you in this morning with engaging on a national issue of gender-based violence. You know, these are the same people who should resolve these issues.
Yeah.
These are the same people who these victims of gender-based violence should report to. But they are criminal enterprise. It's sad to say. Because we no longer have a police service. What we have is a police force. You cannot abduct someone, take them to DCI headquarters, and claim to be a direct, I mean, you are, is a police service. So that is where I was taken. You know, I left my children on the road. I was the one driving. Thank God, there were other Christians who we were together. And they claim to be Christians, these people. Of course. And I've asked people, I've challenged people, you mean they are truly Christians? But if you want to know they are not Christians enough, and I'm sorry to appear like I'm judging them, but I just want to ask, every church or every religious organization have doctrines. If you believe, if you have AIC, what business are you having in SDA every Saturday? Or you appear in Jeshi la Okoh this weekend, you are in Dinia Musamba this other Saturday, you are Muslim on a Friday, you are Indian the other day when they were celebrating, you are what? What are you? If you are a Christian like myself, I'm Catholic. Yeah. That's why they abducted. They knew they were going to find me at Holy Trinity in Kileleshwa. Them, they don't go to any church. On Sundays, they can do a Thanksgiving. They call on many churches because they want to give out their 5 million or 10 million, which is our money, what we are losing, the 2 billion that we are losing every day. And so they want to fundraise, to give the money, and then to portray themselves like they are generous. And they are blessed because they are generous, they are giving. They should be telling us, where are you getting this money? As I finish, you know, when I was taken, I would expect, I was so terrified. I left my kids on the road. My wife could drive. And now they were traumatized because what is happening to their dad? And he's being taken by people who did not even identify themselves. Do you know, my last one after all these circus, you know, I went to DCI, nothing. I stayed there, nothing. Taken to Kamkunji, nothing. Then I was told, now in Kamkunji, we need to write a statement. The statement was like 2 lines. How are you close to Uhuru Kenyatta? Second question. Are you also very close to the deputy president? Then Rigathi Gachagua. Have you been to Congo? Then guns. It's over. Now, then I saw the president coming on national live TV telling Kenyans that Alfred Keter was summoned, but he refused the summons. So because he didn't honor the summons,
he was arrested.
That was not an arrest. I was abducted. Yeah. Number 2, there were no summons. And when he was pressed by Linus Kaikai, he stopped. He didn't want to engage further. No, they've given information. Because he didn't have any information. Let me tell you, what I was told in this year, all those officers were telling me it is from above. Orders they couldn't say anything. We don't know, we are waiting for the above. Now, meaning, it was from the president. Finally, my daughter asked me this question. After now, I was released in the evening. I went home and I met my kids, which I had to explain to them. Nothing happened to me. I'm fine. As part of way of trying to comfort them to come out of it. Do you know, one of my daughters asked me that, Dad, did you try to report to the police? She didn't know that these are police officers. The police. And she could not be convinced otherwise. This is a young kid growing in our nation. We need to transform this country. When you hear people saying Ruto must go, it is not anything tribal. Some of us, we are Kalenjin. Right. And to be specific, I'm Nandi, the same tribe as William Ruto. There is nothing about tribalism here. All we are saying, they're incompetent, they are very corrupt, and they have lost focus, and they are full of lies. Even according to our bishops, they have said they are tired of these lies and promises, fake promises. They came to Nandihis. Let me, I have so many to talk about. Yes. They came to Nandihis to open a water project. Then I saw the president posting, this water is distributed to 1,000 households. Do you know, it was only serving one household. which they connected for purposes of launching. And he's tweeting. He tweeted.
He wasn't talking about the future.
Which future?
That
he was saying, he was reporting
that in the future
that he has
it will serve.
It is serving 1,000. He didn't say future. He said, that is what he wrote. The tweet is still there. He said that it is serving 1,000 households. It was serving one household, which it was done for the purposes of the launch. And for your information, this is a project which was done in the previous regime.
All right. Alfred, unfortunately, we are running short of time. And Sigei, just 30 seconds to just wrap up this.
You know, the sentiments of a citizen and the personal experience is something that one should take note. Because if someone who is as prominent and somebody who has been in authority as Alfred Keter can narrate the ordeal he went through, what do you think an ordinary citizen who isn't known, who doesn't have a voice like Alfred Keter has, what chance does that citizen have in this country if he chooses to speak the truth?
True.
Or if he chooses to speak truth to power?
Yeah. And I just wanted to sum it all up, but to just say, if you go to the EACC Twitter handle, X handle right now, as a young person, what do you do when you encounter corruption? Just look at it. 18.7% will report it. Stay silent, 22.3%. But those who will engage in it is 58.9%. That is something that we as a country must sit down and think why the young people think that the only way is to engage in it. I'm Dennis Aseto. This has been the Situation Room. And to everybody that made this a success, Asante Sana, we link up tomorrow. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
Asante Sana, Mheshimiwa.
Asante.
Good morning. This is the news. The government has been urged to prioritize resolving the problems that threaten the effectiveness of the new SHA insurance fund cover, and the comprehensive, that is the CBC curriculum. Former minority leader in